We now have the possibility that the Middengard Wyrm could also get out of the middle. And we have references to these areas, specifically in the Night Court, that have been carved out of mountains.
Yeah, totally.
In the library, carved out by some digging beast. And we have a digging beast.
The sweatshirt complements your eyes beautifully. It's like the same color. It works so well. It looks great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It is the exact same color, which is a little weird, actually.
The exact same color.
Yeah, it's the same color.
But it looks good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also started literally because of the amount of times that the like percentage of time that I see my face relative to the percentage of time that I used to see my face has obviously like dramatically increased.
Yeah.
So now I have self-tanning drops as of 4 days ago.
I've booked a like, this is so dumb. This is so dumb. But I like desperately need my haircut. And this fancy ass salon, I know, this fancy ass salon opened up near me. And I'm like, I think I'm just going to, for the first time in my life, get a fucking big girl haircut. And like, cause like they do like a consultation. And I'm like, I usually go and I'm like,
consultation?
Yeah. They're like, if you're new, we're going to do like a consultation for you. I'm like, okay, fuck it. I don't know. I'm 33.
What do they do?
I don't know.
Look at your hair and then send you home?
No, they're also going to cut it. They're also going to cut it. But it's like when you're new, it's like come early. We'll do like a 30-minute consultation or something.
30 minutes?
Either a scam. Yeah, they're like, leave an hour and 45 minutes for this haircut. I'm like, oh my God. But I booked it because I don't know. I don't know what's happening to me anymore. But it's really funny.
What could you possibly talk about for 30 minutes?
I don't know. I don't think it's actually going to take an hour and 45 minutes with me. I hope not. But they're like, come how you normally style your hair. I'm like, yo, you want to see how I normally style my? This is how I normally style my hair. Okay, this is. I mean,
how
they're
going to tell you to stop doing that.
Like, this is me.
That is going to make your hairline go like mine.
I know.
Which is why I no longer do that.
I know, it's so bad, but it's just like the messy bun is so easy. Yeah.
Used to exclusively get my hair cut at like whatever the supercuts equivalent is. And then my sister is not like that. Like my sister has always been a big girl haircut sort of person because she gets her hair colored. And I feel like if you get your hair colored, you also get your hair cut.
Yeah, like
when
styled.
You get it colored. Like it's like it's kind of like a one deal situation.
Yeah.
So she found this person who does air dry friendly haircuts, like specifically cuts your hair so that it looks good when it is air dried. And so I went and got my hair cut by that woman. She's based in New York City. And honestly, it's the most technically talented haircut I've ever, that's not really correct English. That hair artist.
Highest level of skill.
Highest level of skill I've ever, like they're just picking up random strands of hair and like doing things with scissor at the end. And I mean, my hair does look better. I suppose it looks better air dried now than it did. I mean, it's too long now, but when it was first cut, it really did look better. So
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm hopefully going to tell her. I'm going to be like, look, I don't blow dry my hair. I don't do anything to it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But yes, it's exactly what you said. I'm like, I see my face so much more often now than I used to. I'm like, whoa, okay. This is like, we're going to buy some products. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is how it happens. This is why all those like 20-year-olds are out here like using like eye cream and like deep anti-wrinkle cream every night because they're all on TikTok all day. Like they were just born on camera. I'm like, is this good?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not sure, but now I'm looking at myself and I'm like, I need concealer and I need Tan Luxe face drops in my lotion.
Yeah. Well, you're glowing and your sweatshirt matches your eyes.
But you have less of this. I've actually noticed. I have like very high variability between summer and winter in my skin
with your skin tone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if I wore foundation, I would have 2 shades apart.
Yeah. I don't know. My skin, I can get really tan in the summer, but I think I have a like
higher
naturally,
yeah.
I'm a little higher. Yeah. It's that Irish German blood I got going.
Which makes no sense.
I know.
It's got to be the Ashkenazi Jew.
It's got to be. I don't even know what it is. Well, one time my grandma told me we were Black Irish, so we were like originally Spanish. I don't even know if that's true. This is just like my family lore. So like way back.
Sure.
Like we were Spanish. But even that, like Spaniards, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Or someone lied. Someone cheated somewhere. That's much more likely with my family history. But
I mean, have you guys done the ancestry, like 23andMe?
well, actually, my uncle did it. And like, so I was told basically my dad is 100% Irish, like 7 kids, like classic Irish Roman Catholic, New York, Long Island family. And my mom is basically 100% German. But then my dad's brother did the 23andMe. And I think we got back like Albanian. Where the fuck did that come from? I have not done it personally.
Oh, dear. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, Hi, I'm Ronnie.
I'm Abby.
And this is Dragons in the Details, the podcast that helps you better understand your favorite fantasy books over the course of an undetermined number of episodes. We are currently covering A Court of Thorns and Roses, the series, also known as ACOTAR by Sarah J. Maas. Disclaimer, these episodes will contain spoilers for that entire series, the entire ACOTAR series. We will announce any other Maasverse spoilers ahead of time, and we keep them to the second half. So we have an ACOTAR-Only spoiler section, and then we have a Maasverse spoiler section, and we announce the Maasverse spoilers ahead of time. Another disclaimer, this podcast is rated R. Do not listen to it with your children, at least without supervision. That's what rated R means, we've learned. Each week, we dive into a specific topic in depth. This week, we are digging into the various creatures of Prythian, who make up quite the ragtag bunch. So we'll talk about
the menagerie.
We've got a menagerie, truly. We come with receipts. We have quotes to back up any theories, so you can follow along if you are skeptical. Abby, you want to cover announcements?
Think it is possible. I could be wrong because I'm really bad at anniversaries, but I think it is possible that this episode will be released on our 1-year anniversary. So guys, it's been a whirlwind of a year. If it is our 1-year anniversary, either way.
I don't think it's going to be on the anniversary because I don't think it falls on the same date. But yes, I think it's like the equivalent, like the 52.
Weeks. Yeah.
The 52 week. Yeah.
So happy birthday to us. Thank you to all of you guys. And I remember it because it's like more or less a month before your birthday. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's the date. But we can cut that too if you want.
I don't care. People can know my birthday.
People can know.
We'll probably talk about it on my birthday.
Yeah, so just thank you to all of you. I don't think when we started, we had any idea what this would become. I don't think we thought it would become this in our wildest dreams. There's a lot of you here. We're just really thankful. So I'm just saying thank you from us
that we'd still be here 1 year later. Even.
Oh no, guys, I cannot even tell you when we started, this was like, all right, let's just fucking try this. If you guys recall, I had horrible audio issues in our first couple episodes because I was like, this isn't going to last. I don't need to invest in a mic.
3 and 4.
Yeah, which is now 2 and 3 because we've combined our Zayden episode back into one episode.
No, it's 3 and 4. It was 4 and 5, but yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we're back. We think we're not back. We've always been here, but we think we're better now. We hope we're better now. We're learning. We're just making it up as we go along. So thanks for being with us. All right. Deep Dive Music, as always, brought to you by Schwoodley. That is SCHWOODLEY. He is also doing our sound editing at this point. So shout out to Schwoodley. Check them out on Spotify if you have not. He puts together really great, awesome music, and I personally love him.
Literally.
I see you put this in. YouTubers, we hear your comments. We're going to go back to the regular episodes on YouTube. We got you. No problem, which means you will be hearing this announcement on YouTube.
Well, no, but if anybody switched over to Spotify, like if you're hearing this, you switched over to a podcasting platform, we heard your feedback, you want the banter on YouTube, the banter is coming back to YouTube. So if you'd rather watch them, you're getting it.
All of our banter. And if you don't like it, you can just fast forward. We will not be insulted. If you're like, I'm here for the theories, but these girls are weird, we have chapters. You can enjoy them. Season 3. So guys, we are wrapping up our ACOTAR episodes. I believe we only have, including this one, 4 more planned ACOTAR episodes. So we are wrapping up. It has been an awesome journey. Season 3, we've made this announcement before. We're making it every week for the remainder of our ACOTAR season, is going to be on Crescent City. If you want to keep listening to us, if you have not read Crescent City, we recommend you start right now. These are long books. These are long books. They are great books. They are lore-heavy books. It is going to be such a fun season. I am so fucking excited. Honestly, I was doing a lot of Crescent City prep for this episode. I'm really, really excited to dive into it. but we recommend that you guys start if you have not. And we know that a lot of you have, and we know that a lot of you are hesitant about Crescent City. I would recommend trying it. What's the worst that can happen? Try it. Read 50 pages. See if you're into it. What is the worst thing that can happen?
Specifically read 5 chapters. Just give it a
chapters. I would read 5 chapters and then you're going to know pretty quick. Other than that, we are a small podcast. We are trying to grow. We're doing this spiel every week. If you listen to us, if you like us, whatever platform you're at, Spotify, I see you guys. Fucking love you. Please subscribe. It really helps us out. We're going to try to grow. We're going to try to bring in more to this podcast. And the more numbers we have, the more data that we can show, the more that we can grow it. We hear you guys want merch. We're always getting asked for merch. We're getting asked for visual diagrams, visual aids. We want to do all of it. We want to give it all to you guys. We want to do it all. But to do that, we need subscribers. We need to show people that this is kind of worth their time and effort and money. And we love you guys. So if you want to subscribe, that would be hugely helpful to us. I think that's it on the announcements front.
Agreed. All right. Corrections, omissions, social media, shout outs. Abby, do you have any to share with the class?
I do not for ACOTAR.
Okay. I have one. So this is a YouTube comment from CGS9787. I think I've actually read shout outs from you before. So thank you for all of your comments. I think you're a frequent commenter. And this was a precog that is ACOTAR only. I wanted to call it out and also just talk about how sick I think this would be for ACOTAR 6 if this ends up true. As always, I enjoyed the chat. My Monday is already starting on a happy note. We love when we do that. Thank you so much. My precog is wacky, and it has to wait until book 6, as they all do, but I'm convinced Nesta's powers represent the cauldron, Elaine's represents the mother, and Feyre is all those other forces, as she has all the elements. I am willing to die on the mountain of Elaine is the voice in the bog. The description is so her. Also, Elaine is holding Feyre's hand during Nyx's birth. Can I prove it that she is using her power at that time? Nope. So maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing. That's so us. But I can't wait for book 6. Perhaps I'll read this in a year and think about how silly I was. I hadn't considered the Dark Mother. That was kind of the theory. I think this is so interesting because I think we had talked about the kind of off-kilter theory that maybe that was Elaine's voice, but not too in depth. And I think that would be such a wild twist. Not too wild, but that would set up Elaine's powers to be so much bigger and so much cooler than they are currently being set up to be. That would be so sick if Elaine was in the background going through the manifestation of her powers all this time and actually guiding Nesta in a way that we did not really appreciate the entire time. I don't know that I necessarily feel that that has been the case all of the times that Nesta was being spoken to by this woman, by this female voice that's kind of in her head, especially when she's kind of picking up the harp, because I think that seems to be a force that's much, much bigger. But if it is, really at any point, then Elaine being this force, this voice that is seeing Nesta and guiding Nesta, this seer entity would be so cool if we found out later that that has been manifesting for her in the background. I think it's a really cool theory. So I wanted to shout it out.
I agree. I think it's a really cool theory. We got a couple comments about the idea of that voice actually being Elaine and not the mother. Which I do think is an interesting idea. I agree that I don't think we've seen anything thus far that would necessarily tie it to that, except that they're both kind of soft and gentle. Mm-hmm. It would be cool. I guess that's all I have to say. It would be cool.
Yeah.
I realized I had a omission for Maasverse, but we can start talking about it here. I don't think there's any reason not to talk about it here. And this would go completely against what you just said, and I really hope they're not the same idea. This is from Diary of a Night Lizard. Mm-hmm. And I know that you were pinging Liz on our Discord because she's also on our Discord. So shout out to Liz. Mm-hmm. We posted a clip about the mother's voice being described as soft and gentle. Mm-hmm. Liz pointed out that that is also almost word for word how Cassian's mother is described. So the quote we have for that, this is in Frost and Starlight chapter 3. Cassian scanned the snow-covered pass. His memories here were murky, mud and cold and 2 small fires, but he could recall a lilting, soft voice and gentle, slender hands. It was all he had of her. So we have the voice called out and we have the hands called out, which is exactly what we get for the mother. And it is very, very similar to the descriptions we had for the mother. So was Cassian's mother actually the mother? Which would be interesting, right? Because her story's kind of unfinished. We don't really know what happened to her. would also mean she basically abandoned her child, but maybe she did that for reasons we don't really know. But like he was, sent to an Illyrian, well, not abandon him, but like she let him get sent to an Illyrian war camp at 3 years old and like live outside in like the fucking awful mountains. So not great, but I thought it is so similar to the mother, and it's a great call out. And it kind of gets to the idea that we've talked about Cassian. If the mother is shepherding Nesta, and if the mother is Cassian's mother, was Cassian actually like made, quote unquote, for Nesta? Yeah. And hopefully Elaine is not the mother, because that would mean that Cassian is Nesta's nephew, which would be really fucked up. So those theories don't work together.
Definitely don't work together. We should continue talking about that in Maasverse, obviously.
We will, but I wanted our ACOTAR-only listeners to have a little snippet. We could talk about that. Yeah. I think it's a really great idea. So shout out to you, Liz.
Shout out, Liz.
Yeah.
All right, fun question for this week. What is one question you'd ask the Suriel if you could?
I don't know. Can you go first so I have some inspiration?
I mean, I have a list of 7. When is ACOTAR 6 being released? Like, what do you mean?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Well, I was thinking more about like my life.
What choice can I make right now to most improve my life long term? Like, pretend you're going to a psychic.
Brain operates.
Who is Erston?
Who is Erston is a good one. Who is Erston? I think I would ask her the Suriel.
Her the Suriel. Did you just channel a psychic visit in your head and you saw a woman?
The Suriel with a turban. Yeah. Fake crystal ball. I don't know how deep to go. I do feel like I'm coming to a crossroads in my life at some point, and I want to know which path to take. What would be better for me? And I would consult the Suriel on that. And I think you would probably consult the Suriel on that as well.
Big time. I wasn't going to go there in front of all 4,000 of our listeners, or 4,000 of our subscribers.
We can cut it out.
10. How many listeners do we have a week? I don't know, 10,000. But yes, guys, I am coming to a crossroads in my life. I would like the Suriel's advice on where to go.
That being said, I'm not sure the Suriel gives the best advice. So
no, the Suriel is literally like, only you know what to do. Yeah, like fucking thanks, Suriel.
Fuck off, Suriel. Yeah, I would ask them that, and I would ask them, when is ACOTAR 6? When is ACOTAR 6 coming? It has been so fucking long.
And also,
like, nothing.
We have a content calendar to plan. We need to know.
Am I planning 2027? Am I planning 2028? What's happening? Are we getting Fourth Wing 4 before we get ACOTAR 6?
That's what we need to know. These are the things we need to know. Heaven forbid we get them at the same fucking time. Then what do we do?
I don't know. That would be so dumb for the publishers to do that, in my opinion.
They're different publishers.
I know, but then you're competing. Like, it's...
Oh, don't even... I'm not saying it would be smart. I'm just saying that it's possible.
Yeah, it would be bad. All right, what's yours?
I just said 6 of mine.
Okay, fine. All right, we can go on.
No, I'll rattle them all off, but the question was 1, so I guess I have to choose 1. I already said, when is ACOTAR 6 being released? Who was Erston? Empyrean Book 4, you covered. Where should I buy a house so that I don't lose value? Which is an irrational fear of mine, but statistically, I think it almost never happens. Because
losing value on a house?
Correct.
Yeah. Almost never. Almost never.
So why do I worry about that? I don't know.
You worry about everything.
I do worry about everything. Yeah. The crossroads question, which is the what choice do I make right now to most improve my life long term? Are Lucian and Elaine actually mates for real? I need to know the answer to that. Just so that we can put it to bed. I don't care what the answer is. I don't care. I just want everyone to be happy.
I want everyone to be happy, and I want the best story we can possibly get. Yes. And I think some of the theories we've thrown out here would lead to incredibly interesting storytelling. If they are mates and it's that simple, fine. That's fine. You know,
but we need a good story that arcs them there. Because they're currently so far away.
That justifies the things that have been done so far to lead people to believe that they might not be right for each other. That's all.
Yes. Yeah. Those are all my
So these are really questions. What would you ask Sarah J. Maas, who is the Suriel in this game?
Well, the Suriel has the answers. Sarah J. Maas isn't going to tell me. Shall we deep dive?
Yes, we shall.
Okay. Abby, what is the Suriel? What are its powers?
All right. The Suriel is a sassy, gossipy bitch demon. I don't know.
And I love her. him,
We love her.
whoever, love them.
There's no gender. There is no, I did go back and check. Never is the Suriel
It's never
assigned a
referred to as a gender.
So we have a genderless demon. I'm calling it a demon. It's really more Dementor vibes. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
All right, let's start at the beginning. I'm all over the place today. So we are first told, our first mention of the Suriel is that it's old and wicked. We know that it's old, but wicked doesn't really vibe with the Suriel that we've been given. So the quote for that, this is all the way back in ACOTAR chapter 9. Feyre is talking here. So there are fairies who will actually answer any question if you trap them. Maybe they'd know how to free me from the treaty's terms. Yes, he is Lucian here. He said tightly, the Suriel, but they're old and wicked and not worth the danger of going out to find them. Why is the Suriel being called wicked here? Like, we don't really know. Also, where is the Suriel getting its information from? We talked in our Elaine episode about how the Suriel is not actually that good at predicting the future, but it is good at knowing what's going on right now. Where does it get its information from? I do not know. So that is a question. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, keep going. It's fine.
The lore of the Suriel. This is just going to be a little bit of an info dump, guys. So you can ensnare it using either a chicken or a cloak. Maybe other things too. I don't know. By the end, Feyre doesn't even have to ensnare it. She just shows up where it is and it has a conversation with her. It has a weakness for groves of young birch trees, and it hates crossing running water. Don't know why. Has a thing for, doesn't like water. It's aquaphobic, all right? Physical description. This is where I say it gives Dementor vibes, right? So this is both from ACOTAR chapter 14. I hadn't known what to expect as I entered the ring of white trees, tall and straight as pillars, but it was not the tall, thin-veiled figure in dark, tattered robes. Its hunchback facing me, I could count the hard knobs of its spine poking through the thin fabric. Spindly, scabby gray arms clawed at the snare with yellowed crack fingernails. A face that looked like it had been crafted from dried, weather-worn bone, its skin either forgotten or discarded, a lipless mouth, and 2 long teeth. That's T-O-O, not T-W-O, to be clear. Its teeth are too long. Held by blackened gums, slitted holes for nostrils, and eyes that were nothing more than swirling pits of milky white. The white of death, the white of sickness, the white of clean-picked corpses. Peeking above the ragged neck of its dark robes was a body of veins and bones and dried and solid and horrific as the texture of its face. It let go of the snare and its 2 long fingers clicked against each other as it studied me. So, like, very horrific. Like, really just not a looker here.
Be looking.
Our dude, the Suriel. The only note I had here, besides the horrific visage we get, is the milky white eyes I hadn't really picked up on before, but that is typically means that it's blind, right?
Blind,
so, like, yeah. Is the Suriel blind? Does it matter? I don't really know, but I thought it was an interesting detail to throw in here, because the Suriel specifically says it sees Elaine peering at it with those doe eyes, right? But, like, that's clearly not, it doesn't physically see Elaine peering at it. So, like, I think that kind of is maybe a clue into how it's seeing everything, like it's connected to some higher dimension or something. I'm not really sure. All right, the powers we do get for the Suriel. It seems to be able to actually smell lies on people. So this is again in ACOTAR chapter 14. It says to Feyre, I don't remember what she's lying about. Sorry, guys. It says, lies, I can smell the lies on your breath. It sniffed again, its fingers clacking together. It cocked its head to the side, an erratic, sharp movement, the dark veil snapping with it. So Feyre has lied about something. And the Suriel says, literally, I smell the lies on your breath, right? Take note more. That's how you have a truth power. You fucking smell people's lies on their breath. It's not a mind reader, though. Like, it does not know what Feyre does and doesn't know. So the quote we have for that is, what do you know about Tamlin? More specific, human, be more specific. I know a good many things about the High Lord of the Spring Court. The earth tilted beneath me. Tamlin is a High Lord. Click, click, click. You did not know. Interesting. So it didn't know that Feyre didn't know that Tamlin was High Lord. So it's not the Daemati powers like Rhys has. It's something else. It can also read emotions. So this is similar to that lie smelling ability, but not Daemati, right? So when it tells Feyre that Rhys is her mate, we get the Suriel cocked its head. You are feeling too much too fast. I cannot read it. So it can like feel her emotions, read her emotions, but not her mind. We also get a lot of wind imagery with the Suriel, which I think is really interesting given what we know about Merrill being descended from the western wind and Cochet whispering on the winds. We get The snare shattered. This is ACOTAR chapter 14. The snare shattered like a shadow on the wind. The Suriel was off. A blast of dark that set the 4 Naga staggering back. So that's like a shadow on the wind. Later we get Elaine says, it moves, she whispered. It moves through the world like the breath of the western wind. As a reminder, Meryl is specifically descended from Rabbath, the Lord of the Western Wind, who we have yet to meet. And then its death scene. What Feyre says is, as warm light whisked us away, I could have sworn that the pile of ashes was stirred by a phantom wind. That's ACOTAR chapter 60, which kind of feels like a phoenix situation to me. Like, is the Suriel actually dead? Like, if its ashes are being stirred by a wind, does that mean some kind of reincarnation? We haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
But could it? I don't know. It cannot see things that are not of Prythian. We've talked about this quote at length. But Feyre asks it in ACOTAR chapter 58, would the bone carver make a difference? And Briaxis, the Suriel had no eyelids, but its milky eyes flared with surprise. I cannot see, not him. He is not born of this earth. His thread has not been woven in. Other things we have of note, and then I have a section for extra nonsense. We could get there or we could not get there. So it calls the Fae its brethren, which I thought was a little interesting. This is all the way back in ACOTAR. This might have been what Feyre was lying about. Yeah, it is. So it let out a huffing, awful laugh. And which of my brethren betrayed my secrets to you? None of them. My mother told me stories of you. Lies, I can smell the lies on your breath. So it calls the Fae its brethren. This could mean in the way that all fairies are brethren, because like Lucian did say it was a fairy. Like he did say the Suriel is a fairy. So it could mean that way. But I think that's interesting nonetheless that it calls the Fae its brethren, similar to how we talked about the bone carver kind of identifying himself as part of the Night Court. It bleeds black. So the quote for that is, it took me a heartbeat to register what happened, to identify the wooded thing that burst through the Suriel's throat as an ash arrow, to realize what sprayed in my face, landing on my tongue and tasting like soil was black blood. We also have Striga bleeding black. So what is the connection potentially between those two characters? Why do they both bleed black? Then we get some interesting things about like the timeline that the Suriel gives us about its life and whether or not they add up. So what it says is that it is not as old as the cauldron, but it did exist before the courts. So the quote for that is, this is ACOTAR chapter 58. The Suriel is talking about the King of Hybern. He uses magic to cloak it, magic far older than I, the cauldron. Another awful smile. Yes, that mighty wicked thing, that bowl of death and life. So that's magic far older than the Suriel. And that magic is the cauldron, right? So we have the cauldron here, we have the Suriel here. And then it says, and this is ACOTAR chapter 14, I am a member of no court. I am older than the High Lords, older than Prythian, older than the bones of this world, right? We are told that the cauldron created Prythian and this world, but now the Suriel is saying that the cauldron is older than it, but it is older than the world. And I don't think that that quite works out.
I actually just connected it to the fairies piece directly. It sounds like you're saying that you're of this world because you can't see things that aren't.
Yeah.
But you're also older than the world.
Right.
So I just don't really understand how those things exist in tandem, and the cauldron is like an entirely separate issue. So I do think there's just some inconsistency with that element.
I would agree. I would agree.
Well.
Potentially a bit of inconsistency, but it's okay. We love you, Sarah. I'm just going to go through a couple things here. I'm going to once again call out, we talked about this in our Elaine episode, but Feyre calls this out. We do not know its name, but it is implied that it has one. So the quote for that is, I don't even know your name, I whispered. The Suriel, it was a title, a name for its kind. That small smile again. Does it matter, Cursebreaker? Yes, its eyes dimmed, but it did not tell me. It only said, you should go now. Worse things are coming. Worse things are coming. The blood draws them. That's ACOTAR chapter 60. So like we're being set up for something here that has not been delivered yet, that there's kind of more to the Suriel, more to this story than meets the eye. It also calls Elaine a trembling fawn, which is exactly what the Book of Breathings, we think, calls Elaine as well. It's not confirmed, but it is at least using the same verbiage as the Book of Breathings. So the Suriel says, this is ACOTAR chapter 58, thrice now we have met, thrice now you have hunted for me. This time you sent the trembling fawn to find me. I did not expect to see those doe eyes peering at me from across the world. And then the Book of Breathing says, hello, sweet thing. Hello, lady of night. Princess of Decay, hello, fanged beast and trembling fawn, love me, touch me, sing me. So again, not confirmed that the trembling fawn necessarily is Elaine, but the Suriel later calls Elaine a trembling fawn. So it feels like it is. And as a reminder, Elaine is basically scrying for the Suriel. That's why he sees her doe eyes peering at him, which I think is interesting. Like, is the Suriel connected to the book? Does the Suriel just know everything? Like, why is the Suriel using the same language as the book? Or is that just a turn of phrase? And then again, we have a little bit of Night Court imagery like we got for the Bone Carver. So Feyre calls it a dreamer. The quote we have for that is, another rattling breath, leave this world a better place than how you found it. And as its chest rose and stopped altogether, as its breath escaped in one last sigh, I understood why the Suriel had come to help me again and again. Not just for kindness, but because it was a dreamer. Dreamer, typically shorthand for Night Court citizen, basically, in these books. So, like, again, is this meant literally? We get a lot of setup, background, lore, mystery for the Suriel. And I don't think it's really been delivered on yet. And in theory, the Suriel is dead. So will we get that delivery? I don't know. That's a question. But that's kind of the big things that I had. What did you have?
Yeah, I only had a couple additional things, and you kind of mentioned them. But one thing that I want to just kind of re-emphasize that you pointed out when you were talking about the fact that the Suriel didn't give us its name is that the Suriel has numbers. Right. So the Suriel is not one of a kind. And I think that's interesting because I don't think it closes the door on whether we have met the last Suriel.
Yeah.
I think it opens the door on, like, how does a Suriel become a Suriel? If the Suriel had a name, was it always a Suriel?
Right. Or was it something else? Yeah.
Really mean? Why are there so few? And why do we only meet one? Are we going to meet another one? I think is like an open question.
I actually had this written down in my notes as a theory, and then I took it out because we do have that line, and it's a line that Amren says to Rhys. I think I have it written down here. Or that Rhys says to Amren. Yeah, so the quote is, Rhys is telling Feyre about Amren, and he says, I think that she is the only one of her kind, and there is no record of others ever having existed. Even the Suriel have numbers, however small. And I actually had a theory written down. Are we sure about that? Or is this just one Suriel that, like, reincarnates, basically? Like, I don't know. Like, Feyre talks to the same Suriel every time.
So maybe the Suriel does not actually have numbers, but Lucien thinks that they have numbers and Rhys thinks that they have numbers.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Suriel's not necessarily off the board.
Yeah. Maybe Suriels are not off the board. Maybe that's why they're believed to be wicked, is like there is one out there that's wicked. I don't know why else its name would matter. Like, why concealing its name would matter if its name didn't matter, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right. It feels like we're getting set up for the Suriel to be someone that we know, right? To have some connection to some character that we have met somewhere.
Right.
I don't know who that is. But.
Yeah. The only other things that I had were the meaning of its name. So Suriel is a name with Hebrew origins, which is not surprising given Sarah being Sarah. So the name Suriel means God is my rock. It's a Hebrew name, right? So Sur, Tzur means rock, and El means God. And in the Bible, Suriel is a name, and it's an archangel who basically explains the meaning of various things to characters in the Bible. So
well, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's like its name is very much derived from an archangel who does this exact thing. But I think it's interesting that it's an archangel. Like it's somebody from like a different plane of being than everybody that it's explaining things to. So it, again, is calling into question for me, is this really a fairy? Is this somebody that's like of the world of everybody that it's speaking with?
I'd say we get very mixed messages. And it's very interesting, especially with all of the angel imagery that we get with Amren. And we know that Amren is not of this world, right? So like, is the Suriel from her world? Is the Suriel from this world? How can you be older than the bones of this world, but also be from this world? Like what are you? Yeah.
But then, like, if Elaine's becoming a Suriel, which that's a plug for our Elaine episode, then...
Go listen to our Elaine episode.
Then it is from this world. I don't know.
That's what I mean. There's something, and this is maybe precog. I don't have anything specifically to point to here, but there's something to me about the Suriel that feels cyclical. Like that feels like we have done this before, we will do this again, and maybe it's just the wind coming with the ashes and stirring them up. Like I know everything because I have lived this before, basically, which we haven't gotten any kind of like time loop or anything in ACOTAR in the Sarah J. Maas universe. So like this, I could be totally off here, but I think it feels like we're getting set up that we know who the Suriel is and that they are potentially, if they are of this world, they have come back around kind of, or they are not of this world, if that makes sense.
Like they're going to be like an ancestor or something that we recognize.
Yeah. Cool. All right. This is how this episode's going to go, guys. We're just going to talk about creatures and basically spit out crazy theories. I think it's going to be a fun one, just so you know.
That's it. I feel like nothing's going to be that solid, but it's going to be kind of deep. That's that's my prediction.
Yeah, that's this episode.
Cool. All right. Cool. I will ask myself, what is the Middengard Wyrm? All right. In my head, this is only going to apply to a small subset of people who know what the fuck this is, but in my head, this is Shai-Hulud. Like, that's what it is in my head.
Love a Dune reference.
This is the sandworm in Arrakis.
Yes.
And that is from Dune, if anybody here has read or watched Dune. No, honestly, more serious note. The Middengard Wyrm, we actually don't know that it's called the Middengard Wyrm when we first meet it. We learn most of the things that we know about the Middengard Wyrm after it's dead. So Farah's first trial in ACOTAR, in chapter 36, consists of a very muddy, very gross trench labyrinth, lava labyrinth, and hunting down what we now know to be the Middengard Wyrm. It is a blind worm with a lot of teeth that Farah was effectively able to fool by coating her own scent with the scent of the horrible smelling mud. So the description is giant worm, or what might have once been a worm, had its front end not become an enormous mouth filled with ring after ring of razor-sharp teeth. It barreled towards me, its pinkish brown body surging and twisting with horrific ease. These trenches were its lair. And then we learn it's blind, too. I'm not going to read the quote. The quote is, it was blind. Kind of gross. Like, kind of sounds like exactly like a worm you find in your backyard, but like gigantic and has like basically its cross-section cut off and it's just like rows of fucking teeth.
Do you know what a lamprey is?
No. What's that?
You should Google lamprey. Listeners, you should also Google lamprey unless you're driving. But like this is a real creature that truly lives in our world, and it is like fucking horrifying. And apparently, I think one year in Alaska, there was this like migration of seagulls. This is totally off topic. There's this like migration of seagulls that like were like hunting lamprey, and they like just started dropping them on people like on land. Anyway, that's kind of how I picture the Middengard. Are you horrified?
I mean, I'm horrified, but it also is like an interesting dimension. Like the teeth are like set in the gum in a more interesting way for everybody. This is the lamprey.
Yes, that's a lamprey.
In a more interesting way.
It's definitely Shai-Hulud-esque. Yeah.
Yeah, it is Shai-Hulud-esque. Let's see if there's a good image of Shai-Hulud for those who have not seen.
There definitely is. And if you haven't seen Dune, you should go see Dune.
Yeah, definitely see Dune. Okay, like this is Shai-Hulud.
Yeah. That's Shai-Hulud. Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh, gross. Okay. On all counts, like any version of this. Farah's first trial, Middengard Wyrm, its whole thing is it's blind. She fools it by tricking it into not being able to detect her via masking her scent, and then she traps it on a bunch of bones and she kills it. That's the end of the trial. She hunts it and she kills it. So the Middengard Wyrm is dead as of book 1, but we learn a lot more about it after the fact. We only actually hear Middengard in ACOTAR. We don't even hear Middengard Wyrm. The first thing to note about the Middengard Wyrm is pretty much everyone knows of the Middengard Wyrm. So it's a pretty renowned beast. The bone carver knows the Middengard Wyrm, most notably, and is willing to accept the bone that caused its death as payment. And everyone in the Spring Court, Cassian, everyone knows, like, you've slain the Middengard Wyrm. Like, that's really noteworthy and important.
Yeah.
So everyone in Prythian is kind of aware that the Middengard Wyrm is a beast, a renowned one, and that Farah beating it is crazy. So that's a lot. Second, it is said, like when we meet it, that the trenches under the mountain where the Middengard Wyrm's lair. Under the mountain is in the middle, right? A lot of bad shit lives in the middle, including Striga, including the Bogge of Orid, the Kelpies, we'll talk about later, and all of these other things that are kind of like death god adjacent. So here's what we know about the middle. Just because I think it's significant that the Middengard Wyrm, its lair is in the middle. In ACOMAF chapter 20, which is the first time that we encounter the middle, it's right when Rhys is bringing Feyre to meet darling Striga. And he says, in the heart of Prythian, there is a large empty territory that divides the north and south. At the center of it is our sacred mountain. My heart stumbled, and I focused on my steps through the ferns and moss and roots. This forest, Rhys went on, is on the eastern edge of that neutral territory. Here there is no high lord. Here the law is made by who is strongest, meanest, most cunning. The Weaver of the Wood is top their food chain. So the Middengard Wyrm's trenches, where it lives, is in this empty territory underneath this land where there is no high lord, no laws. It's just dumped in this place where all of this evil, crazy shit lives, and where Striga, this death god, is also locked. We also later learn in A Court of Silver Flames that that's where the Bogge of Orid is, the mask is, and we learned that Orid was also once a sacred place. So in A Court of Silver Flames, chapter 31, we learn about the Bogge of Orid. Some interesting things. Warriors were laid to rest in its night black waters, but Orid changed to a place of darkness, filled with such evil that no one will venture there, and only the worst of the fairies are drawn to it. They say the water there flows to under the mountain, and the creatures who live in the bog have long used its underground waterways to travel through the middle, even into the mountains of the surrounding courts. Feyre frowned. It can't be more specific, though, she asked Rhys. Do we have a detailed map of the middle? Rhys shook his head. It's forbidden to map the middle beyond vague landmarks. He pointed to the sacred mountain in its center, where he'd been held for nearly 50 years. The mountain, the woods, the bog, all can be seen from land and air, but its secrets, those discovered on foot, those are forbidden. So we have the Middengard Wyrm. Its trenches are its lair under the mountain, which is in the middle. We also have the middle being full of all of these creepy death god adjacent characters. Then we have the Bogge of Orid, which has these waterways that flow to under the mountain, and all of these underground waterways that are used to travel through the middle and into the mountains of surrounding courts by creatures. So one is the Middengard Wyrm, like Striga, like other things in the middle, also not of this world. I'm not sure. It seems like it was slain pretty easily if it was just like slain by bone, but so was Striga. So
yeah,
I don't know. Like maybe it's adjacent. That being said, we now have reference to these waterways traveling through the middle and under all these mountains. So this is kind of crazy. This is kind of precog, but we now have like the possibility that the Middengard Wyrm could also get out of the middle and get out of under the mountain. And we have references to these areas, specifically in the Night Court, that have been like carved out of mountains.
Yeah, totally.
In the library, carved out by some digging beast. And we have a digging beast. So does the worm have more of a hand in carving out these pockets of space into these mountains than we thought? That might be kind of crazy, but these are my crazy theories on the Middengard Wyrm.
No, I love it. I hadn't thought about the Bogge of Orid connecting to under the mountain, but I think that's really interesting. Yeah, I had those same quotes that it's like we don't get that much time with the Middengard Wyrm, but there are sprinkles throughout implying the importance of this creature. So the library, I'm just going to read a couple quotes because I actually think that she gives us a little clue that this is what's happening. So the first clue that we read on our library episode, it was as if the base of the mountain had been hollowed out by some massive digging beast, leaving a pit descending into the dark heart of the world. Did you read that? Sorry if you did.
I said carved out by some digging beast, but yeah, we should go further.
We have a massive digging beast.
We have a digging
beast.
The
worm.
Yeah.
And then we get this quote in Silver Flames chapter 14. So it was silence and soreness and the roaring in her head. Maybe it was the roar. This is Nesta. Maybe it was the roaring that brought her to the stairwell instead of her bedroom to wash up. The gloom beckoned, challenging her like the open maw of some great beast, a worm poised to devour her whole. Right. So we have, again, this idea of a worm being in the House of Wind, in the library, etc. And we only have one worm. one word with a Y, at least. I have a little bit of a mythology break, much like you had with the Suriel here, which I think is really interesting. Feyre calls it in ACOTAR a worm, W-O-R-M. But we later learn in ACOMAF that the spelling is actually W-Y-R-M, right? So we talked about this, I think, back in our Feyre's Trials episode way back when. Worm is typically a legless dragon. One of the most famous examples of a worm, W-Y-R-M, I am apologizing for this pronunciation ahead of time, is Jormungandr. Yeah, Jormungandr. Sorry, Jormungandr.
Yeah.
I got this pronunciation from YouTube, but it's the same YouTube that gave me Riorson, so do with that what you will. So, Jormungandr is also known as the Middengard serpent or the worm of Midgard. And obviously, Midgard serpent, Middengard Wyrm, these are extremely close, right?
Yeah.
Midgard in Norse mythology is the human realm. The mythology of the serpent basically is that it encircles the earth, our earth, human earth, and is biting its own tail, which sounds very much, which it is an Ouroboros, right? We had Feyre looking into the Ouroboros mirror, and that when it releases its own tail, when it unclenches, basically, is one of the signs of the beginning of Ragnarok, which is also known as the Twilight of the Gods, which is rumored to be Sarah J. Maas's next series because of a Pinterest board that she put up about 10 years ago at this point. I don't even know.
Yeah. And Ragnarok is also the apocalypse.
The apocalypse. Yes.
Which is concerning, but
concerning.
Okay.
I don't know how, obviously not a one-to-one correlation, right? Our Middengard Wyrm does not encircle the planet unless it secretly does. I don't know. You got me thinking about these waterways now. In Norse mythology, the Midgard
about the waterways.
The waterways. In Norse mythology, Jormungandr is at the bottom of the ocean. Obviously, we've killed this one. Are there others? What is this worm? Like, what does this mean? We're getting a lot of clues that this worm is kind of important, especially when you look at it through a mythology lens and has like been in various different places. But I don't think we have answers yet. Keep an eye on the worms. That's all I got.
We'll talk more about this. Yeah, no, but I love the tie to, how do you say the
Jormungandr?
Jormungandr? I feel like I've heard that before. How do you spell it?
It's Jormungandr. Jormungandr.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Loki's kid.
Yeah, Loki's kid. Yeah, one of three. And basically the mythology is that Jormungandr, I'm not an expert here, but like Jormungandr was living on the plane of existence of the gods. I don't remember what that planet is called. And then Odin banished him to Earth. So then he encircled the Earth, bit his own tail. And when he unbites his own tail, that means Ragnarok is coming.
I learned about Jormungandr when I was looking at Loki's other two children.
For a different series.
Yeah. That is a plug.
Norse mythology. It's everywhere. Yes. All right.
Okay, cool. Anything else on that one? All right. Well, that wraps our ACOTAR-Only section for this week. Suriel and the Middengard Wyrm. More than meets the eye. That was more than you've ever thought about the Suriel and the Middengard Wyrm. We are on social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, as Dragons in the Details Pod. We've got a website, dragonsinthedetails.com. You can reach us via email if that's your vibe as well, dragonsinthedetailspod@gmail.com. And we've got a Discord server that's a hoot if you're into that. Dragons in the Details is the name of the server. And all of that is linked in the show notes as well. If you are not sticking with us for the Maasverse section, it would mean a lot to us if you would subscribe on whatever channel that you listen to. And we are about to start talking about spoilers for the entire Maasverse. So if you have not read all of Crescent City and all of Throne of Glass, that is 11 books. And so we're very sorry for that, but they're also so good. So we really recommend that you read them. Spoilers for all of it in 3, 2.
Real quick, and if you guys are like, wait, there's so many more creatures, why aren't they talking about more creatures? This is a Maasverse plug. We're about to talk about them, but we can't talk about them in ACOTAR only, okay?
To interrupt the countdown with that is wild. But yes, I agree. Restarting the countdown. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. All right, Abby, Maasverse cosms.
Yes. All right. So I have an omissions. I have 2 omissions here. The first one, do you want to do the Apollyon as death one, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, we should definitely do that. I feel like we've posted it on social media.
We've posted it on social media, but we haven't talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
So Ronnie opened my eyes last episode. I don't remember, a couple episodes ago, about the fact that death at Nyx's birth is a shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie posited brilliantly that this was actually a Prince of Hell. She didn't know which Prince of Hell, which I think is totally fair. I was reading Crescent City and I texted Ronnie and I said, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. When Hunt is in the dungeon and sees Apollyon, a scene I have read many times, but I still miss this quote. The quote we get is, the shadow smiled at him. So Hunt smiled back. And then the shadow spoke. You would do well in hell. Too drugged with agony, Hunt didn't even quiver at the familiar male voice, one he'd already heard in another dream, another life. Apollyon, he grunted, not death, capital D death, which is how death is described in this scene.
Yeah.
At all then.
Yeah.
I think it's Apollyon that's in the room.
It's probably Apollyon.
Why is Apollyon at Nyx's birth?
Yeah, it's probably Apollyon. But, like, you'd have to think that it's fucking Thanatos.
I don't know.
No?
Why do you think it's Thanatos?
Because Thanatos is on Prythian.
That's true. I keep forgetting about that fact.
He's there.
I don't know. Because he does say not death. So maybe I'm misreading this here. Maybe it's not a clue. But it's definitely capital D.
Capital
death.
D death.
Capital D death here. So
yeah. Regardless, Prince of Hell, capital D death.
Nyx. Yeah. Okay. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun.
That's going to be fun.
I think. Cool.
Totally. Great find.
All right. I have stuff about the Suriel. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I also have stuff about the Suriel.
Okay, cool.
But I do have other
causes. Let's do that before we because my Suriel thing is like a full Maasverse answer on the Suriel.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
We might be talking about the same thing. So I have a correction-ish from our last episode that I just wanted to call out because I feel like maybe people are gonna comment on it, and if they don't, I'll just cut this. But in our Trove episode, I talked about how I wasn't sure that we really used the cauldron to make the Trove because Celine kind of talked about them separately and made the Trove sound like they were like Daglin weapons of destruction and kind of independent of the cauldron. Vespers does say that they made the Trove from the cauldron. So Vespers would definitely be either lying about that or the cauldron would not actually be of Prythian, which I still think the door is open for the second very much.
I definitely think, having gone back and re-listened to the cauldron this week, it is possible the cauldron is not of Prythian. But that's getting so deep into this lore and would be such a change. Like, I don't know if she's going to go there.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
So I'm not like fully redacting that concept, but I do think it's a much harder sell because I was listening to the Mother episode and I was like, I read the quote. I read the quote that said Vespers was like, we made the Trove from the cauldron. So noted, my bad. Vespers said it. And Vespers doesn't have a great reason to lie to us. She has been in a sarcophagus for 15,000 years.
I am taking everything Vespers says as Bible. And by Bible, I mean I sleep with it by my bedside every night and read it every night. No, not really. Yeah.
And then I have a social media shout out from Kayla Bezaire, Bezaire. I don't know if I said that right, so I'm sorry, Kayla. Hear me out. The three-faced mother/mother maiden crone is Fate, aka Word/Erd. However, the three faces are the actual mother and then Mala/Deanna. The ACOTAR gods left and got stuck in Aurelia, but the mother was left in ACOTAR. This has meant the three parts of her have now been separated, which has made everything unbalanced in ACOTAR ever since. When Aelin puts the gods back/opens the rift to Hellrealm, somehow, maybe they kill her spirit, Deanna returns back to the cauldron, the void where all things return. This is why it is there for Nesta to grab out, and why Lanthus says it's impossible because he knows Deanna and her power have been gone from their world for a long time. We still don't have the entire three faces united, and until they do, the mother is just the Dark Mother. We need all three to make her whole again. So I wanted to call out this comment because we've got it from a couple different angles, and I think it's worth talking about because I've had this thought a few times, and there's a reason that I keep coming back to it not quite working in my brain, and maybe you can help me with it. I'm coming more to terms with this concept of the Venn diagram of the three-faced goddess and the throne of glass gods being two overlapping circles rather than two separate circles. But what's confusing to me is that they are referenced, the three-faced goddess and the throne of glass gods are referenced in the same world as totally different things. Like the three-faced goddess is worshipped by the Iron Teeth Witches.
Yeah.
And the Throne of Glass gods are also in that world. And when Aelin is sending the gods through that gate, there is a god with many faces. And
there is. It could be Themis, though.
It could be Themis.
I don't know if that's how you say it. Yeah.
So maybe, like, I don't know whether the three-faced goddess can have three faces that are also Throne of Glass gods. I don't know. I struggle with this concept a lot. I kind of had just accepted that they could not overlap. But Kayla is basically making the argument that they do. That three faces could consist of the faces of Mala and Deanna.
So you're saying that the three-faced goddess is, in fact, three of the Throne of Glass, is the mother, whoever the mother is, Deanna and Mala.
Kayla is saying that it is the mother, Mala, and Deanna. That's Kayla's theory. I am saying I'm becoming more okay with Throne of Glass gods being the faces of the three-faced goddess, but I have, like, to date struggled with that concept because the three-faced goddess to me is a separate entity from the Throne of Glass gods. But I hear everyone who's saying that they overlap, and I'm acknowledging that I am confused.
I'm really confused. Not with you. I think the way, first of all, not our Throne of Glass season, right?
So not our Throne of Glass season. But we did talk about the mother and the three-faced goddess and Deanna.
We certainly did. I don't think we're going to have answers until we do Throne of Glass, unfortunately. I still think that when you look at the language, the closest comp is Silba. I do want to call someone commented on our social media, but they weren't very nice, so I don't remember who they were, and I didn't write down their name. But I actually thought they had a kind of good point, so I'm going to say their point here. We interpreted the voice that Elaine hears as being Silba because she hears it when she's healing Kaol, and then she hears it again when she's killing Erewhon.
Irene.
This commenter's... Sorry?
Irene, you mean?
Yeah, what did I say?
I think you said Elaine, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Irene. Sorry, Irene. Irene. This commenter's point was, it's not actually Silba that Irene is hearing. Irene is hearing the mother. Like, the mother has picked Irene and has picked Nesta for, like, her army or whatever. But the reason why Irene can still hear Silba after the Throne of Glass gods have left is not because Silba has, like, stayed, but it's because it's actually the mother, which kind of lines up. It's kind of the flip side of what we were saying. We are saying Silba is the mother.
Yeah.
This commenter was saying, no, Irene is hearing the mother, not Silba. I think either of those work.
You could argue either way.
I agree. Except that maybe Silba has left, but when it's, and this all gets to the same issue, the same fundamental core issue, which is that the scene where the gods leave is so chaotically written. We get no names. We get no, like, I think it says it says a specific number, but then it does not give faces or descriptions for that number. It's really hard to tell who was involved in that scene, which could mean that we're barking up the wrong tree here, right? Like this isn't actually as important as we think it is.
Yeah.
Or it could be obfuscation intentionally. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Kayla, I think it's an interesting theory. And I think I actually do think it would solve, if I were putting Throne of Glass gods onto the three faces, I would put Silba, Mala, and Deanna, because then it fills the powers that we are seeing. We'll have the water, we'll have the healing, the light, the fire, and then whatever the fuck Nesta has.
Yeah.
As well.
We have
the moon and the stars.
We have the silver flames.
We have
the silver flames. We have the healing. And we have the white. We have the silver flames that Nesta obviously shows. That's from Deanna. We get fire imagery in the cauldron, right, of her being forged, and that would be Mala. And we have the healing light that she uses to heal Feyre and Nyx.
But I was also
kind of
just
works
thinking on Prythian.
Yeah.
In general. Yeah. Because I think we also, like, the cauldron is intrinsically tied to Prythian. So I think it could be interesting. But I think, again, that scene in Throne of Glass is a bit of a mess.
It's a bit of a hodgepodge.
It's just a mess. So, but cool theory. So thank you, Kayla.
Yes.
All right.
Should we talk about the Suriel? So we've gotten comments that the Suriel might be a Reaper from Crescent City. I went back. I did some digging into this. I don't think so at the end of the day that the Suriel is a Reaper, for the very simple fact that there's two facts. One, Reapers, we're told, can cross oceans, and the Suriel does not like to cross running water. So I think that might not allow it to be a Reaper.
Pretty simple.
The other thing is the Suriel has milky white eyes and the Reapers have acid green eyes. Very hell. But the quote we get for that is a rotted veilless Reaper, black cloak and robes clinging to its bony body, rain sluicing down its sagging grayish face, was dragging her unconscious brother across the drenched street. Its acid green eyes glowed as if lit by hellfire. I mean, Sarah is literally banging this over our heads here. So acid green eyes are not milky white eyes. I don't think it's a Reaper. I understand that there's similarities. I don't think it's a Reaper. That being said, we do have a character that the Suriel is pretty similar to. I wonder if you got there too. And that is the Underking.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what we have milky white eyes. So the quote we have for that is, allow me to introduce my shepherd, the Underking said from the mist ahead, standing beside a 10-foot tall black dog. Each of its fangs was as long as one of her fingers, all hooked like a shark's, blah, blah, blah. Its eyes were milky white, sightless, identical to the Underking. So we have the milky white eyes. The voices, when the Underking spoke, we have, however, in a voice simultaneously ancient and youthful, but cold and dry, the sound came from behind them. This land is closed to you, Bryce Quinlan. That's the Underking. For the Suriel, we have human, it said, and its voice was one in many, old and young, beautiful and grotesque. My bowels turned watery, as they always do for Pharaoh.
They always do.
So again, we have that kind of like otherworldly, old and young, one in many voice. Their wardrobe. So the Underking is described as a desiccated corpse, half rotted and crowned with gold and jewels. Observe them, hideous beyond belief, yet regal, like a long dead king of old, left to rot in some barrow who had emerged to make himself master of this land. I still think that's the funniest quote ever. Like she's telling us exactly what he is.
Yeah.
For the Suriel, well, yeah.
It's so interesting that like this is the Tolkien crossover that Sarah has chosen to just like lob into this series.
Yeah.
We're just going to put Barrow Whites in Throne of Glass and Crescent City.
On the other hand, is the Suriel not very, very similar to Tom Bombadil? All right, that will be a different episode for another time. Similar, right? We have robes, we have rotting corpses, similar vibes there. Their teeth. So the Underking also has, he grinned, exposing 2 large brown teeth, and the Suriel, it smiled, each of those stained 2 large brown teeth visible. Like those are word for word the same, right? And then the feelings that they elicit in the people they're talking to. For the Underking, we get, he stood at least 10 feet tall, robes of richest black velvet draping to the gravel. Darkness swirled on the ground before him, and his head, this is from Hunt's point of view, something primal in him screamed to run, to bow, to fall on his knees and beg. That's House of Sky and Breast, chapter 29. All the way back in ACOTAR, Pharaoh with the Suriel, we get, run, some primal, intrinsically human part of me whispered, begged. Run and never looked back. So we have something primal in him screamed to run, to bow, to fall to his knees, and then run, some primal, intrinsically human part of me whispered, run, and never look back. So we're getting the same feelings as we are getting from the Underking and the Suriel. Obviously, the Underking, I do not think the Underking is the Suriel. The Underking was originally a Barrow White, hence the Barrow White quote.
Hence the fact that it's in a barrow.
It's the fact that it's in a barrow. So, like, I don't know. Is the Suriel originally a Barrow White from Aurelia? What does that mean? Does that matter? It bleeds black. I don't know what color the Underking bleeds. I don't think we ever seen the other Underking bleed. Obviously, that's like Valg. But then, like, appearance-wise, description-wise, it seems most similar to these whites. So, what do you think?
Yeah. I think the Underking similarities are clear. I also think this is like a bit of a stretch, but there's a sailing, right? So it kind of makes sense too that it wouldn't want to cross water. Because you're across the river Acheron when you cross over into the underworld. Or whatever. What is the river actually called in Crescent City?
Isn't it the Eastros?
Eastros, yeah.
Yeah.
Eastros River.
Yeah.
So the fact that the Suriel doesn't like crossing water kind of works as well. I definitely think it's the most like canonically similar character in description.
I'm kind of left with a so what though. Like what? Like why does it matter?
I'm not sure why it matters, other than the argument that in death there is a trope that's not just a Sarah J. Maas trope. It's just like a literature trope that like in death you can see all things, right? So with Elena and with Gavin and with all of these people who are dead, they just know things. Like they can just see things, and so they can tell the people who are alive, what's happened, what will happen, what they should do, what they should not do. But they can't tell the future. They can only offer advice and can see because they're in this other realm. And I think that's really like the only.
So that is actually
one.
So interesting if the idea is that the Underking, the Suriel could potentially commune with the dead, because then what does it mean that he saw Elaine's eyes peering at him from across the world?
So I want to talk about a pretty popular fan theory that could link to this. It could be nothing, but I think it could link to it.
Fucking Kaltain?
It's about Kaltain. I don't know that fans look at this passage when they think about this theory, but I think I found the passage that links to it the most. I still don't necessarily think that it's Kaltain, but it made me think of maybe the Suriel is just in death, like in this afterlife.
Dead. Okay, yeah.
And I think we need to acknowledge this theory. Like everyone's gonna, like you guys are gonna comment, what about Kaltain Rapier? So here we are. We're talking about Kaltain Rapier, okay? And I also want to talk about how this could possibly tie to the fact that the Suriel are said to have numbers as well. In Kingdom of Ash, chapter 33 of 1 gajillion, because Kingdom of Ash is a million years long. Dorian attempts to summon Gavin to ask whether he is ready to face Morath. But instead, Damaris just summons Kaltain Rapier, who had died bringing down a third of Morath by basically just incinerating it from the inside out. Big redemption arc for an otherwise kind of annoying character. Good for her. Redemption arc in basically one book is kind of crazy. There is a pretty Suriel-like interaction between the two of them in this scene. So Kaltain shows up. Dorian is like, I did not ask for you to be here. She held up a slender hand, her gauzy dress and silken hair floating on a phantom wind. I mean you no harm. So we have that phantom wind again that is linked to the Suriel. Dorian's like, I didn't ask for you to be here. And she says, didn't you? Weird. But knowing. He wonders whether the sword, this is a very long passage, so I'm paraphrasing. He wonders whether the sword blessed by truth, Damaris, orchestrated this meeting, implying that Kaltain now holds some kind of truth. Power. He says, I thought you were destroyed at Morath. And Kaltain says, I was. In so many ways, I was. Then they have like a little bit of a reconciling. And he basically expresses guilt. And he's like, I'm sorry, I never did anything to save you. And she says, I wasn't blameless. Like I was after your crown. They have like a little bit of a making up moment. And she says, I never had friends of my own, not as you have. I always envied you for it. You and Aelin. She's not supposed to know that Aelin's Aelin. So he says, Dorian then asks, you know who she is? A hint of a smile. Death has its advantages. So because she's dead, she knows these things. And then she says, I am not allowed to say who dwells here with me. So if we're linking this to the Suriel, just like play with me that the Suriel is like of this kind for a second. Could the Suriel know what it knows because it is like a being who has stalled in some sort of afterlife and now knows things because of that. And there are people who dwell there with her, like with the Suriel. Because saying, I can't say who dwells here with me implies that it's not everybody. Like, it's not everybody who dies. It's a specific set of people who have died for some reason. Food for thought. Dorian then asks her if he's ready to go to Morath, which feels a lot like Feyre asking the Suriel if she is ready to look into the Ouroboros. And Kaltain gives basically the same answer that the Suriel told Feyre. Kaltain says, it is not for me to tell you if you are ready. And the Suriel said to Feyre, only you can determine what breaks you. Curse breaker. And then Kaltain tells Dorian, like, don't try to kill Erewhon. You wouldn't walk away from it. She just, like, knows things. Now, she knows he can shift. He's like, I can barely shift. She's like, can't you? And then he turns into a bird. I guess I'm bringing this up because I get it. Like, I don't know if everybody who's saying Kaltain Rapier is the Suriel is referring to this passage, but if you are referring to this passage...
No, they're talking about the cloak, because Aelin gives her a cloak.
Well, yeah, Aelin gives her a cloak as well. Yeah. I mean, with this, I understand, but I also think this plus the Underking connection, whether it's Kaltain or not, I think it's more interesting to consider the potential that the Suriel, and if the Suriel has numbers and the Suriel's numbers, know the things that they know because they are living in some sort of afterlife realm.
Half here,
realm.
half not. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. My argument against Kaltain has always been that even with a word key in her arm, she bleeds red when she dies. and the Suriel bleeds black. That's always been my reasoning for not. However, no one has read me this passage.
Yeah, when she's alive, she's not a Suriel, though. I think she's a Suriel then.
Yeah. The black blood is really interesting because nothing that we've talked about here has led me to believe that the Suriel is Valg, which is usually the black blood, right? Yeah.
Yeah, nothing else about the Suriel is Valg, right? Like, it's not sending visions.
It's not sending visions. I mean, the run
fear.
thing, but it's not drinking fear. It's not inspiring depression.
Yeah. Right.
There is one Valg thing about it, actually, which is the Suriel and Erewhon actually have almost identical, not death scenes, but like post-death scenes. So I talked about how for the Suriel, we get as if a phantom wind came and like stirred up his ashes. Yeah. For Erewhon, we get they watched in silence as the Valg King turned to ashes as a winter wind swept over the tower balcony and carried them far, far away. Does that matter? I don't know, but it is pretty similar, this idea of the wind carrying the ashes. Where's the wind taking them? Yeah, that is a lot to think about. That's a really cool scene. That is a Kaltain theory I can fucking get on board with, not this cloak nonsense, guys.
I hate that I'm giving this to you guys, Kaltain fans, but here it is, okay? Here's the Kaltain theory that could work.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Yeah,
I like the Kaltain fans.
I like this idea.
I'm not a hater, but I was a hater.
I think what Sarah did with Kaltain's character is great. What I don't like is everyone out here saying Kaltain is the Suriel because Aelin gave her a cloak. I don't know. That never quite sat right with me, but this is really interesting. And it's interesting, too, that she says, I can't say who's here with me, almost implying someone is secretly dead. Like, because there's no one, what would be the information she's trying to conceal there, you know?
Well, right. And, like, think about the people that Damaris is summoning, right? It's Gavin, Olenna, Kaltain. Like, who else isn't being summoned that could be summoned at some point, I guess is what she's concealing.
At some point, we will do a Death in the Maasverse deep dive. Hopefully after more books come out, because we don't have enough information right now.
But we know, right, that Olenna is basically like trapped in this in-between. So it seems like this is an in-between. And you can you can leave the in-between.
Also does kind of lead back to the Reapers, right? The Reapers are kind of stuck in an in-between too. So maybe the Suriel is a Prythian version of the Reaper. I don't know. All very interesting. But the Suriel too has the connection to the middle, right? Like Feyre finds the Suriel in the middle. Why?
Sure. All right, an hour and a half in, and we're going to start the last 4 questions of the episode. Okay.
Is it 4? Oh, God, it is 4. Oh, my God. Okay. All right. We'll go quick.
Yeah, I feel like we can be maybe more expeditious in the second half here.
We've meandered
All right,
All right.
Abby, what are the Bogge?
All right. So we first meet the Bogge in ACOTAR, and it is more of a feeling than an actual creature, right? So the quote for that is we get, Lucian whipped his head to the right, listening, his eye whirring softly. The hair on my neck stood, and I had my bow drawn in a heartbeat, pointing it in the direction that Lucian stared. Lucian doesn't even try to fight this thing. We're later told that Tamlin goes after it, but Lucian doesn't even attempt to fight this. And Lucian fought the Naga. So Lucian's pretty, High Lord heir, pretty powerful. Doesn't even try to fight it. The description we get for that is, my blood froze as a creeping, leeching cold lurched by. I couldn't see anything, just a vague shimmering in the corner of my vision, but my horse stiffened beneath me. I willed my face into blackness. Even the balmy spring wood seemed to recoil, to wither and freeze. The cold thing whispered past, circling. I could see nothing, but I could feel it. And in the back of my mind, an ancient hollow voice whispered, I will grind your bones between my claws. I will drink your marrow. I will feast on your flesh. I am what you fear. I am what you dread. Look at me. Look at me. I will fill my belly with you. I will devour you. Look at me. And just as I thought I would give in, when my eyes hurt so much from not looking, the cold disappeared into the brush, leaving a trail of still, recoiling plants behind it. And then we get, what was that? I asked, brushing the tears from my face. Lucian's face was still pale. You don't want to know. Please, was it that Suriel you mentioned? Lucian's russet eye was dark as he answered hoarsely. No, it was a creature that should not be in these lands. We call it the Bogge. You cannot hunt it and you cannot kill it, even with your beloved ash arrows. But as we know, Tamlin can kill it. I don't know how Tamlin kills it. That happens off screen. It becomes real when you look at it. So why can't I look at it? Because when you look at it, when you acknowledge it, that's when it becomes real. that's what it can kill you. And then one last thing we know is that its bite is designed to slow down Fey healing. And I'm saying that word for a reason. So the Bogge's bite was crafted to slow the healing of high Fey long enough to kill us. You have my gratitude. So that's what we found out in ACOTAR. Later in Silver Flames, we find out that this creature was actually created, crafted, birthed by Lanthus. So the quote for that is, before he went into the prison and confinement weakened him, Lanthus could turn into wind and rip the air from your lungs, or turn into rain and drown you on dry land. He could peel your skin from your body with a few movements. He never revealed his true form, but when I faced him, he chose to appear as swirling mist. He fathered a race of fairies that still plague us, who thrived under Amarantha's reign, the Bogge. But the Bogge are lesser, mere shadows compared to Lanthus. He feasts on fear as pain, as much of the flesh itself. So I think what's interesting about the Bogge being tied to Lanthus is obviously the Bogge feels very Valg in the feelings that it inspires and in the cold that Feyre feels, right? Like she feels, it's not quite Valg Princey, like it's not like feelings of depression, but it is absolutely causing a feeling in her and speaking into her mind, right? Which are both very Valg hell things. We have the feasting on fear. We have the Valg prince telling Selena, your agony tasted like wine. Like it's similar Valg ideas.
Yeah.
And obviously we know that Lanthus bleeds black, right? But what I thought was interesting about the Bogge is that it is unlike any other potential Valg creature that we have seen, right? We have not seen anything with this like psychological horror. Like Valg creatures usually scaly, talons, claws, wings. Like I realize the Bogge's kind of invisible and it talks about having claws, but like it's so much more of a psychological horror game than what we're used to seeing with the Valg. And it's almost like Lanthus just created like mini versions of himself, right? Because they speak into Feyre's mind, they the Bogge, right? We know that Lanthus can project images, speak directly into Nesta's mind. Lanthus can turn into the wind. The Bogge has no corporeal form until it's looked at, right? So it's kind of like the wind. He feasts on fear. Lanthus is said to feast on fear. The Bogge, we get, I am what you fear. I am what you dread. Look at me. Look at me. So I just think it's interesting with Lanthus and with the Bogge. We have kind of talked about Lanthus being Valg and being hell. But if you took away the fact that Lanthus bleeds black, I think we're ignoring the wind here. The idea of the wind, basically like being an actual thing, like I am the Lord of the Western Wind. Mm-hmm. And we have Lanthus appearing as wind, and we have the Bogge being non-corporeal, right? And we just kind of have been like, well, Lanthus is Valg because he bleeds black. But I guess what I'm trying to say is the Bogge feels so different from other Valg creatures. I'm wondering if there's another player in this game that we have not really accounted for yet with these different wind type gods that we seem to be getting. I don't know though.
Yeah. In thinking about the Bogge and what it does, I agree that the Bogge feels like mini Lanthus. Like it basically sends you a vision to coerce you, right? It will like try and get you to look at it. Like it will do anything to try and get you to look at it. And then it will try and get you to be afraid so that it can drink your fear. Yeah. And so that is Lanthus. Like Lanthus will coerce you. He sends visions to Nesta to try and coerce her into doing what he wants. And we actually don't really feel him drink her fear. I guess what I'm getting at is he feels, if anyone, like Maeve and like no other Valg.
Interesting. Why do you think he feels like Maeve?
Because Maeve, when she has Aelin, is sending Aelin visions to try and get Aelin to do something and does not feed on Aelin's fear. Like Maeve doesn't really seem to need to feed on fear. So I guess now we're talking about Lanthus, but like if you're asking me, does Lanthus seem Valg? If you take away the black blood, he doesn't seem Valg, but he seems like Maeve.
Yeah. So maybe Lanthus is a Valg queen. Hell queen.
Valg queen.
I don't know. Yeah.
And then the Bogge feels Valg. Like feels more like a Valg prince.
Without a body.
Without a body. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the prince's thoughts.
Yeah. Right.
Just, I want to feed on your fear. Kind of like Bryaxis.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I had for the Bogge, those thoughts.
The only additional thing that I have on the Bogge is not at all related to Sarah J. Maas, but the word is super close to the word boggart. which does the same thing in Harry Potter.
Yeah, that's true. That didn't even occur to me.
You look at it and it becomes your worst fear.
Yeah.
There's also a boggart, like the word boggart. It's just a word in English folklore, but the boggart in English folklore doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So this seems inspired by Harry Potter.
I don't think we know that the Bogge becomes your worst fear, but yeah, it becomes like real.
Yeah, it becomes real. It can kill you. And I assume it becomes something you fear because it wants to drink your fear. So yeah, that's fair though. We do not have confirmation that it becomes a fear.
Yeah.
Just something
Cool.
bad.
All right. Anything else on that one? That one was fast. All right. The most fun question of the episode, I think. Ronnie, how did the Middengard Wyrm absorb Nesta's power?
All right. So scratch all of our "this is crazy" bullshit from the ACOTAR-Only section. Middengard Wyrm is in fact digging tunnels through Prythian, obviously.
You were really harping on that. I was like, this is what's happening.
Well, we keep getting, so we've gotten a couple comments from people that is like, it's so funny how you guys do backflips in the ACOTAR-Only section to not like expose other series of Sarah J. Maas's works. So
we're doing our best. It's tough.
Yeah. I don't know. Like if you haven't read these series, I guess it is kind of crazy to think about the Middengard Wyrm digging the library under the House of Wind. But no, that definitely did happen. So obviously we have a lot more to dig into on the Middengard Wyrm, seeing as we do meet another one, right? In House of Flame and Shadow, and that we have another world called Midgard. So let's dig into that. In House of Flame and Shadow, chapter 7, Bryce and Nesta and Asriel hidden in a shadow encounter a Middengard Wyrm. That Middengard Wyrm looks the same, a mouth full of rows of teeth opened wide and snapped. Bryce fell back on her ass as the worm caught 3 of the flying lizards between those teeth, swallowed them all in one bite. Her starlight flared, casting the whole cavern in light and shadow. The creatures on the walls screeched either at the worm or the light, flapping off their perches and right into the creature's opening jaws. So they see this worm because it's eating, it's hunting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she pretty immediately recognizes that it is blind because her starlight has no impact on it. So she says her starlight could do nothing against it. It had no eyes. It likely operated on smell. And there she was, a trembling treat offered up on that bridge. I found this part pretty funny because it really, like, I'm not calling Feyre dumb here, but like Bryce clocks that this thing can't see immediately.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
I mean, if it's Shai Hulud, like if that is what it is, it doesn't even have eyes. So like how
she says
like,
it had no eyes.
Yeah.
That's the quote. It had no eyes. It likely operated on smell. And I'm like, Feyre, girl, how did you think this thing
She's
was
quite
like
panicked.
seeing you?
Quite panicked. Yeah.
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 I don't know. She had a hard childhood. Bryce had a loving set of parents. When Nesta tells Bryce what's called a Middengard Wyrm, Bryce rightly is like, is that from my planet? Which is a good question. And that quote is from the same chapter. Nesta glanced to the shadows behind Bryce as if someone stood there, but she said, a Middengard Wyrm. Middengard? Bryce started at the word. Like Midgard? Did they come from my world originally? Horrific as the creature was, to have another being from her world here was oddly comforting. And maybe finding a scrap of comfort in that fact proved how fucking desperate she was. I don't know, Nesta said. Are they common around here? If they were, no wonder the Fae had bailed on this world. No, Nesta said, a muscle ticking in her jaw. As far as I know, they're rare. Then Bryce, being Bryce, basically drips blood to lure the worm along to Nesta and Asriel and uses the diversion to run away, and then is brought back by a guilty conscience, and Nesta and Asriel force her to be the bait for the worm. So it's basically like meeting of the minds, except for battle of the minds, because Bryce thought she was tricking them, then feels bad. Then Nesta and Asriel are tricking her. And that's when Nesta engages the worm. So when Nesta sends her silver flames to the worm, that's the root of this question, it absorbs her power. So that is in House of Flame and Shadow, chapter 14. Behind them, closer to Bryce, the worm erupted from the water again from another sinkhole. Silver fire blasted past her. The worm screeched as the raw power slammed into its side, setting the cavern shaking, debris and rock splashing into the river. Then the fire vanished, sucked into its skin. The worm again plunged beneath the water into the sinkhole. Asriel and Nesta returned to their back-to-back position, and Bryce gathered her wits enough to say, "What happened?" "It ate my power," Nesta murmured. "That's not possible," Asriel said, eyes fixed on the river. "It did," Nesta snapped. "I felt it." And then Asriel says, "Shit," which is a fair reaction. So we talked about already how The Middengard Wyrm, its lair, or one of its lairs, was in the middle, underneath the Bogge. We, of course, here all together in the Maasverse section know that the middle was an Asteri playground. I think the Middengard Wyrm was likely made by the Asteri, or an Asteri creature, and is probably one of the creatures that not probably, I firmly believe that it's one of the creatures that Vesperus references, who is constantly seeking cores of power to eat and survive. And that is, I think you've read this on this podcast probably twice at this point. House and Flame and Shadow chapter
I got
26.
it here. Don't worry.
We hid pockets of our power throughout the lands in case the vermin should cause problems. It seems our wisdom did not fail us. Have you looked beneath every sacred mountain at their very roots? The magic draws all sorts of creatures. I can sense them even now, slithering about, gnawing on the magic, my magic. There is much vermin as the rest of you. Bryce carefully didn't glance at Nesta, who was creeping around the crystal coffin. Nesta had claimed earlier that the Middengard Wyrm had eaten her power. Was that the sort of creature Vesperus meant? Probably, I think so. Probably, I think so. So I think the Middengard Wyrm was able to absorb Nesta's power because the Middengard Wyrm feeds on power because it was made by the Asteri. And that's why it crawls around the middle. That's why it's in the middle in the first place.
So I totally agree with everything you said. There's a couple other interesting things happening to it too. So it eats Nesta's power, but it also absorbs Azrael's power. And the quote we have for that is, rays of blue light flared from Azrael, spearing for the creature. They pierced its dark, wet skin and vanished. And then he later says, it breaks through my tethers like they're spider webs. So it absorbed Azrael's power. Vesperus, when Azrael attacks her, is able to basically absorb and then harness Azrael's power as well. And she said something like, don't you understand, your power is and always will be mine. So we're getting more Asteri Middengard Wyrm clues. I think the biggest clue that these are potentially made, I don't know about made, but at least linked to the Asteri. And the reason why I'm not sure that they were made by the Asteri, I'll get more into mythology. Bryce's starlight flares when the Middengard Wyrm appears. So we have, I think you read this quote, but an enormous worm gleaming with water and mud, a mouthful of rows of teeth opened wide and snapped. Bryce fell back on her ass as the worm caught 3 of the flying lizards between those teeth, swallowed them all in one bite. Her starlight flared, casting the whole cavern in light and shadow. Her starlight flares in the presence of made things. Like, we haven't really dug into this yet, but it shows her the way to Selene's core and the First Light core. It flares around the hounds, which we will get to, that are under the Hewn city. Like, basically, the starlight flaring means I am around something made, I am around something Asteri, right? So we're getting signs that this is a made creature. We have another example of Crescent City of someone's power being absorbed, and it is exactly what you said. It is a like calls to like situation. And that is Hunt. Well, I guess that's not exactly what you said, but basically, I am positing that, yes, it is absorbing Nesta's power specifically because Nesta's power is also Asteri power. Yeah. Hunt's power disappears with the Crystallos, and the Crystallos is a demon from hell, and we later find out that the source of Hunt's power is hell power. So the quote we have for that, this is in the park when the Crystallos attacks Bryce and Hunt. Blood sprayed and a knife glinted as Hunt pulled it out from its sheath and plunged it into the grayish, near translucent hide. Veins of lightning wreathed Hunt's hands and faded into blackness. Hunt rolled, flipping the creature off him and onto the pathway, wrenching his knife free in the process. Clear blood dripped down the blade as Hunt angled it in front of himself, his shredded arm outflung to protect Bryce. Lightning flung and sputtered at his fingertips. So basically, the Crystallos is able to absorb and block Hunt's power the same way that the Middengard Wyrm is able to absorb Nesta's power, right? So it's, again, a like cost to like situation. Idea of it, the worm being made. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about here. The idea of the worm being made, I'm not 100% sure on. I think the worm might actually be from the Asteri home planet. Mm-hmm. And the reason I think that gets back to the mythology angle that I was talking about, because in that Norse mythology, originally the worm is from the planet of the gods, and I can't remember the name, but it's not from Midgard. The gods banish it to Midgard, basically. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe the worm is originally from that Asteri home planet, which is why it feeds on First Light cores, which is why it's reacting to this Asteri magic. Because the idea of the Asteri making the worm, I mean, the worm is like this crazy predator. Why is there no worm on Midgard? You know, like why is it only on Middengard, or not on Middengard, on Prythian, unless Prythian is actually called Middengard, which would be crazy. So maybe it's from the Asteri home planet. But I want to get back to this idea of the worm coming from Midgard to Prythian and that being the origin of its name. Because if that's true, then Selene's story is, if not a lie, at least not complete, right? Because we are basically told the only creatures, the only beings that have come from Midgard to Prythian are Selene and Bryce, right? How would the Midgard worm have gotten to Prythian? We know it likes to hang out near first light cores, and those are thin places. But as far as I know, you can't just like hop from one world to another to like in like a thin place without an object of the trove. And even if that was the case, someone would have to have come with it and said, oh, that's a Midgard worm. You know, someone would have to know like that's a worm from Midgard and call it that. You see what I'm saying? If the Middengard worm is from Midgard, we have not gotten the full story, is all I'm saying. Okay, cool. That's all I have to say. I agree. I think that there are strong Asteri ties between this worm. I think there are strong Asteri ties for this worm. Is basically what I'm saying. Whether that's because it was made or because it's from the Asteri's home planet, I don't know. Yeah. But the idea of an intergalactic giant worm planet hopping is pretty terrifying.
An intergalactic worm that digs planet hopping is pretty fucking wild.
Yeah.
Pretty terrifying.
Well, I'm scared I'm going to get into your precog, but like the Cave of Princes in Avalon is identical to the tunnels under wherever they are under the prison. And we're told those are dug out by the worm, right? So there has to be a worm on Midgard, right? Like, in theory, there has to be. I don't know. Next question?
Yes, Abby. What is the Kelpie?
All right. So some of you may remember that Nesta faces off against the Kelpie in the Bog of Orid. We have a couple interesting things about this. So, physical description. Just read this quickly. It was whiter than bone and humanoid, male, bit by bit, inch by inch. The head rose above the black water, obsidian hair drifting in the water around the creature, so silken and might as well have been the surface. His black eyes were enormous, no whites to be seen. His cheekbones so sharp they could have sliced the air. His nose was narrow and long like a blade, and water dripped from its tip over a mouth. It was too large, that mouth. Sensuous lips, but too wide. He heaved himself out of the water, revealing a bony torso, his black hair dragging behind him like a net. She lurched back again as he slowly lifted his head, the too wide mouth parted. Twin rows of rotted teeth, jagged as shards of glass, filled his mouth as he smiled. He pushed himself onto his arms, and he slid a long white leg from the blackness, another, and then he knelt on all fours, smiling at her. So I think this is important. The Kelpie has legs. It is not a like mer-like creature. Like the Kelpie is a humanoid. It has legs. Yeah. Couple interesting things we get about the Kelpie. He seems to hear the mother, or who we think is the mother, when the mother is talking to Nesta in the bog. So the quote we get for that is, the gentle female voice in her head pleaded, run, run, run. His head cocked, sodden black hair sloshing with the movement, full of what seemed to be bogweeds, as if he'd heard the female voice too. He spoke again, and it was like rock grating on rock, his tone more demanding. So like, why would this Kelpie be able to hear the mother if he can hear the mother? Like, that's kind of crazy, right? He speaks the language of the ancient Fae, which is a dialect that we know hasn't been spoken in 15,000 years. And the reason we know this is because Nesta lets Rhys see the memory of her being dragged down by the Kelpie. He plays it for Amren. Quote is, Rhys turned to Amren, have a listen. Their eyes became glazed and none of them spoke as Rhys showed Amren. Even Amren's face paled at whatever Rhys showed her. And then she was shaking her head, her black bob of hair swaying. That is a dialect of our tongue that has not been spoken in 15,000 years. I could only pick up every other word, Rhys said. Feyre arched a brow. You speak the language of the ancient Fae? Rhys shrugged. My education was thorough. He waved an idle, graceful hand for exactly these situations. Exactly these situations. Yeah, okay. And then what the Kelpie actually said was, are you my sacrifice, sweet flesh? How pale and young you are. Tell me, are they resuming the sacrifices to the waters once more? And when she didn't respond, the Kelpie said, no gods can save you. I shall take you, little beauty, and you shall be my bride before you are my supper. And Amren later tells us that basically the most ancient Fae and humans believed Kelpies to be river and lake gods. And so they sacrificed basically a people to them. So last thing we get about the Kelpies, this is just kind of info dump. They do not reproduce. but they were made. So the quote we get for that is, the Kelpies do not breed, they rape and torment, but they do not reproduce. They were made, legend says, by the hand of a cruel god and deposited throughout the waters of the land. The Kelpie you slew, girl, was perhaps one of the last.
Just so wild. Like, there's no procreation of these beings.
There's no procreation. I mean, they were
exist.
made by a cruel god. Obviously, also, I think this is made by the Asteri. Like, all of these creatures were made by the Asteri. And I think is really interesting, though, about all of them, now that you pointed out, and I didn't even really think about this, they're all congregating in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? Because we are told that the Kelpies were deposited all across the land. And then Amren has a line that tells us that this one retreated to Urid. All of the Asteri things are congregating in the middle. I know it used to be a game park for the Asteri, basically, but like, why are they still there?
Well,
What's in the middle?
Vesperus says there is a place for the unwanted.
Creatures like me. Yeah.
The middle. So I've seen it in my dreams. So I actually think she was being deceitful there. Like, I think that she knows that that's a place where all of her friends are, and like she's gonna go fuck shit up there. But like, something about the magic there, the lawlessness there, is clearly attracting all of these creatures.
And it only really becomes, at least the Bogge only really becomes that after Hewn dies, which I'm about to get to.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. So I'm pretty sure that this Kelpie that drags Nesta down to the bottom of the Bogge is the same Kelpie, same creature that we see kill Hewn. Well, I'm putting kill in quotes because we don't actually see it kill Hewn. So the quote we get for that is in House of Flame and Shadow, chapter 19. The image shifted to some sort of marsh, a bog. Hewn rode a horse between the islands of grass, bow at the ready as he ducked beneath trees in bloom. My parents often went hunting in the vast slice of land the Daglin had kept for their private game park, where they had crafted terrible monsters to serve as worthy prey. It was there that he met his death, a dark-haired, pale creature that could have been the relative of the Knock and Jessica's galley, dragged a bound and gagged Hewn into the inky depths of the bog, the once proud king screaming as he went under. So I think a couple interesting things here. She says it's a relative of the Knock. It's not a Knock. The Knock is more Myr. Like the Knock has fins, so it's not. This creature also came from somewhere else. It's the Asteri made another version of a Kelpie, basically.
Yeah.
And actually, if you look at the house definitions in Crescent City, Kelpies is listed in House of Many Water. So maybe there's Kelpies on Midgard too. We just haven't met any.
We did. Jessica has a pet one. Jessica brings a pet Kelpie into her tank.
No, that's the Knock. That's what I'm talking about.
She also brings a pet Kelpie.
Also a Kelpie? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. What's interesting about this to me, I don't remember if we know. I don't think we know if Hewn is Starborn. He has the knife.
We don't know.
He has the knife. He has the sword. He presumably wields them both. He definitely dipped them in the cauldron. Is it not interesting that this Kelpie has now dragged 2 Starborn people into the depths of the Bog of Urid? We don't know why. There's clearly other people in the Bog, right? Like Eris's soldiers are there, but the Kelpie is attracted to, can spot these Starborn people, but doesn't know the mask is there, has no idea that the mask is at the bottom of the Bog of Urid. Like, okay, I just had this crazy theory kind of come together for me, and you can tell me if you think it's crazy. If the ancient Fae were sacrificing people to the Kelpie, and if the Starborn Fae are in fact descendants of the Asteri, like we thought they were, and they were perhaps potentially a threat to the Asteri, was it like Starborn Fae specifically that they were sacrificing to the Kelpie? Like, does the Kelpie have some radar basically for Starborn Fae? And this was a way to like cull the Starborn Fae population, keep them in line, potentially sacrificing them to this Kelpie. Totally precog, totally out there. I just came up with that on the spot. But like, I mean, we're going to get into the Great Rite next episode. Like, is it a similar idea here with these sacrifices?
Interesting. I like that. It would be interesting. I was thinking more, are the Starborn Fae, Nesta and Hewn, so like, is their power so concentrated that they basically set off a similar alert to what a Core of First Light would set off? Like, is their power so concentrated that they are gravitated to them the same way that like a worm or a Kelpie would be gravitated to a pocket of First Light?
Interesting.
Because it's supposed to be light, right?
Yeah.
That they would.
I mean, with the Kelpie and Hewn, it does seem like Thea and the Kelpie were like in cahoots because it gives her the dagger after.
Yeah.
And we know it speaks the language of the ancient Fae, so in theory it could be reasoned with. But you gotta wonder why it would work with Thea, right? Because it gave up the knife. So what did the Kelpie get out of that? Just like a tasty meal? What's it getting out of it?
Yeah.
Also, I mean, I know the Bogge dies. The Kelpie does not kill its prey right away. Are we 100% sure that Hewn died? Like, are we 100% sure that that's what happened there? I don't know. I think there's some wiggle room.
I mean, what would he be now? About 15,000
the
years
Suriel.
later? The Suriel.
I have no idea. That's kind of why I didn't really go down that rabbit hole. Like, it's 15,000 years later. He's fucking dead now. Like, yeah. Anyway, anything on the Kelpie?
I think you hit everything. I mean, just that there is a pet Kelpie that Jessica brings back in Midgard. So they are over there as well.
Interesting.
She brings a pet Kelpie into, it's very short-lived. She brings him back into a tank. He like humps the tank, and Bryce makes sure that the Kelpie is given to a client very, very quickly.
Oh, yeah, I do remember this. That's so interesting, though. Then why did Bryce say it looked like the knock, not the Kelpie? Maybe it's a different kind of Kelpie. Maybe Sarah forgot she wrote this part of the book. I don't know. Who knows? All right. Okay.
I don't have the answers.
This is not a podcast for answers, guys. All right.
It's not a podcast for answers.
Last question. Ronnie, what are the creatures underneath the Hewn city?
Yes. So we've talked about this a bit before on our, I believe, Reese Part 1 deep dive. That is a plug. But Hewn City, there are creatures under it, literally alive in a pit. So contextually, the Hewn City is a city carved into a mountain, right? Another one.
Another one. DJ Khaled.
Maybe it's carved by the worm. It's carved into a mountain. That's its whole thing, right? Hewn means cut into. So it literally means it's a city that's cut into something. I want to start by saying, and maybe we're going to talk about this more at some point, I'm sure, but I want to start this question by saying that the Hewn City overall is very much giving hell. We've never really talked about this in the Maasverse section overall, because we've never had a question about anything in the Hewn City in the Maasverse section, so this feels like a good time. Kyr's army is called Darkbringers, right? They fight with shadows and steel, and plumes of shadows flare out from Kyr himself in battle. And we just have never talked about that, which is kind of crazy, but we will, I'm sure. And he lives underground with a bunch of scaled reptilian beasts, which we're going to talk about. So with that context, let's discuss the creatures in the Hewn City. We get imagery of these beasts in a few places, but importantly, they're just alive in a pit. So these actual living beasts are in a pit in the Hewn City that is effectively a torture chamber. So when the Night Court has enemies that they don't intend on bringing out alive, their bodies go into a pit, and these beasts devour them. So in A Court of Silver Flames, chapter 37, when the Autumn Court soldiers that were under the influence of the crown were being held and interrogated, they were in this room that's an interrogation chamber, and it's basically an interrogation chamber that has the pit kind of lingering there. And in describing this pit, they're talking about how, you know, when you're done with people who aren't going to live, they eventually get put into this hatch. And that quote is, "Those went through the hatch in the center of the circular room and into the pit of writhing beasts below, to their scales and claws and merciless hunger. The beasts did not feed often. They could receive a body every 10 years and make it last, going into hibernation between meals. These beasts are carved into the gates of the Hewn City as well, probably." We're not given like very complete descriptions of the beast really at any point. We're just given a lot of claws, scales, talons every once in a while. But in A Court of Mist and Fury, chapter 42, when we first see the Hewn City, which is such a great description. I love that whole passage. I'm not going to read it right now, but it's so good. Great scaled black beasts were carved into those gates, all coiled together in a nest of claws and fangs, sleeping and fighting, some locked in an endless cycle of devouring each other. So there's gates in the Hewn City. The scaled black beasts are carved into those gates. So they are effectively mascots of the Hewn City.
They're also on the throne. I mean, they are everywhere.
They're on the throne, yeah.
Everywhere in the Hewn City.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'd be hard-pressed to find anything in the Hewn City without those weaved in there somewhere. We also see them in the vision that Lanthus sends Nesta in A Court of Silver Flames. And that is not hypothesis. That is canon. Nesta says those are them later in
those
the
are
passage.
the beasts. Yeah.
So that's A Court of Silver Flames, chapter 54. Nesta could see the portrait Lanthus wove into the air around them. She saw herself on a black throne, a matching crown in her unbound hair. Enormous onyx beasts, scaled like those she'd seen on the hewn city's pillars, lay at the foot of the dais. Ataraxia leaned against her throne, and on her other side, Lanthus sat there, his hand laced through hers. So the vision that Lanthus is sending Nesta in the prison when Nesta is about to engage him in battle, and Lanthus is trying to convince Nesta to come be his wife, basically, is, hey, rule with me. Remember, we don't really know what Lanthus is at this point. We're like kind of caught between, is he Valg? Is he Hell? Is he Asteri? What really is he? He's sending a vision to her that they are on seemingly the Hewn City throne, or a throne that has the beasts in the Hewn City alive and guarding them at the foot of the dais, as guard dogs, basically, that are protecting them. There are some other beasts that we see in Prythian that I think are very similar to these hounds as well, these beasts. The first, and we talked about this, so I'll just like cover it off quickly, and if you want to hear more, you should go listen to Rhys part 1. Rhys's beast form, right, is basically these plus wings, because Rhys is half Illyrian. So we have 2 points of view that have pretty good descriptions, decent descriptions of Rhys's beast form. The first is Feyre's POV in A Court of Wings and Ruin when they are in battle, and Rhys is basically fully shifting into his beast form for really the only time that we see him do that. The talons came first, replacing fingers and feet, then dark scales or perhaps feathers. I couldn't get a look at them. Covered his legs, his arms, his chest. We later hear that they're scales, so they are scales. His body contorted, bones and muscles growing and shifting. The beast form Rhys had kept hidden, never liked to unleash unless it was dire enough to do so. Before the cauldron swept me away, I beheld what happened to his head, his face. It was a thing of nightmares, nothing human or fey in it. It was a creature that lived in black pits and only emerged at night to hunt and feast. The face, it was those creatures that had been carved into the rock of the Court of Nightmares. that made up his throne. The throne, not only a representation of his power, but of what lurked within. And with the wings, Hybern's soldiers began fleeing. Helion beheld what happened and ran too, but toward Rhys, shifting as well. And then we get Helion shifting, which is basically the daytime equivalent of that exact beast, which is interesting, but not for this episode. And then we get Nesta's POV in her mind, which is Rhys in his mind. In her mind, Rhys is asking for permission to talk to Nesta mind to mind, and she sees him in her mind, and it's his beast form. So the thing that stood beyond the fortress of her mind was a creature of claws, scales, and teeth. So both Rhys's beast form and Rhys's consciousness is this beast that's carved into the Hewn City's pillars, which is super interesting. And then the last beast that I think we see that's pretty similar, this is not canonically the same beast, but I think it's quite similar, is the Naga Hound that the King of Hybern is using in battle, which are also probably the hounds that are not hounds that Rhys references that are used in the Wild Hunt. So when Rhys is describing the Wild Hunt, he says that they have hounds that they use that look nothing like the hounds that you know. They're like serpentine reptilian beasts. Yeah. The Naga hounds seem like they're also that. So these are kind of everywhere. The Naga hounds are described as, in ACOTAR chapter 65, this is Feyre, the nearest hound. This is when they're saving Elaine from Hybern's camp. The nearest hound, it was not a hound, I realized, as the arrow spiraled for its head, but some cousin of the Naga, some monstrous, scaled thing that thundered on all fours, serpentine face snarling and full of bone-shredding white teeth. My arrow went right through its throat, and we later learned that it has black scales. So we have a lot of like black, scaled, reptilian, dark things. What are they? I think we have one comp in another book that I think it could be. And I think that's a word hound, potentially. I don't know if you want to add anything before we go into other series and talk about like the Asteri relationship.
Well, yeah, I more talked about, I mean, I think they're they are the Daglin hounds, right, from the Wild Hunt. I mean, like, I think that's what these are. Like,
they're the Daglin hounds, but the thing that is interesting to think about, we can talk about Warnhounds in a second, they're not really that noteworthy. The thing that's interesting to think about is like how hell-like the Hewn City feels.
Totally.
But the creatures that we see from hell are these like milky white, transparent, weird, like Crystallos-like creatures, not like this. Yeah. Like the hell creatures don't look like this, but the Val creatures do. Like the Ilkin, the word hounds, they all have this type of imagery. So once again, this is not an answers episode, but I think these are definitely the Daglin's creatures. These are definitely creatures that were created by and left by the Daglin. I think that's like a no-brainer in the scope of Prythian. What are they outside the scope of Prythian? I feel like we're getting a lot more similarities between these creatures and the creatures that we see in Throne of Glass that are related to the Valg warriors than we are to the demons that are released from hell, like the Crystallos and adjacent creatures.
Yeah, I mean, even if you take hell out of it for a second, like these are definitely made by the Asteri. Like, and if all the Daglin Hound imagery was not enough, they respond to Bryce's star, right? When Bryce's star in House of Flame and Shadow, when she goes to the pit, when Bryce's star flares, the dogs, I mean, the hounds calm down, basically, right? Like they respect her.
Yeah,
they don't fuck with her.
It's very cute.
It's cute. They recognize what this power is and they recognize it as its master, basically, right? So like undoubtedly these are hounds created by the Asteri, but they feel so Valk. They have talons, they have claws, they have scales, they have claws, they have talons. Like it's exactly what you said. The imagery is so Valk. And so we're once again I am once again questioning how all these pieces fit together because I don't think the Asteri and the Valg are the same. And then you throw things like this in here and I'm not sure anymore, you know? Yeah.
I also think the other thing I think is fun is that down to the Illyrian armor, everyone is made to look the same. The Illyrian armor is black scaled.
Yeah.
It's made to, when they are dressed, have them looking like these beasts.
Yeah.
So like the Night Court Daglin stronghold army, if you picture it back to when these like beasts fought on their behalf and were controlled by the Daglin, all looked like one.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Right. These beasts seem to be like the standard bearers for the Daglin. Like they're all over the Hewn city. The Illyrian armor is modeled after them. They're still here. They're still alive 15,000 years later. Like
they don't seem to fight in battle, but they're like very much the threat.
Yeah, Reese, why didn't you fucking release the hounds against Hybern? Like, what are you doing?
Why was Hybern fighting with them?
Well, so this is what I'm not as sure on the Naga hounds being the same thing. I agree the imagery is totally there, but Nesta does not say, and Nesta sees these hounds. Nesta does not say that that vision that Lanthus sent me was the Naga hounds, right? She specifically says it was the beast carved into the Hewn city, which is why I'm not as sure that the Naga hounds.
Yeah. And what would make more sense is if the Naga hounds and the word hounds were the same.
That would make more sense. I think we've talked about this before. I don't think these are word hounds. I think word hounds are a different thing, but we can talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the word hounds, just for completeness, they are also carved into stone, but they are carved into the King of Otterland's castle clock tower situation. They are the gargoyles. They're described as gargoyles. And they also have serpentine snouts. So they look like the Naga hounds. That's in Queen of Shadows, chapter 27. Her heart leaped into a wild beat, and she willed it to calm as she took in the details of the creature that now stood waist deep in the pool, water dripping off its massive arms and elongated serpentine snout. She'd seen it before, one of the 8 creatures carved into the clock tower itself, 8 gargoyles that she'd once sworn had watched her. And these word hounds do speak. So I think we're dealing with like something a little bit different here. But we have the serpentine and the serpentine. Is it serpentine or serpentine? Serpentine.
I have no idea, but I think
I've said serpentine my whole life. So serpentine is used to describe the Naga hounds and the word hounds. And they're both called hounds.
And what's interesting about the word hound. So the reason I don't think that the word hounds are necessarily the same as these creatures is because I didn't have this prep, so I don't have the line. But I believe there is a line where they are basically implied to be made of stone, if not word stone, like some kind of stone. Like I always saw the word hounds as magic more than a creature, basically. I could be wrong about that, but that was always how I interpreted that. But what's interesting is that the king can see through the eyes of the word hounds, right? Like it's kind of a hive mind situation, if I'm remembering this correctly. I didn't prep this part again. We have a moment like that with Bryce and these hounds too. What we have is, where is it though? Bryce focused on her breathing as she learned to do in the wake of losing Danica, as she'd learned to do in the face of all those Vanir and Fae who'd sneered at her. The star kept glowing, pointing the way. The creature settled as if her emotions were theirs. She willed herself to calm, to feel no fear. The creature settled further. Some laid their heads down. She glanced at the star in her chest, still glowing brightly. These are your champions too, it seemed to say. The star hadn't been wrong about Hunt or Cormac, so Bryce stuck one foot over the ledge. The beast didn't move. She let her foot drop a little lower, dangling bait, nothing. And what that's in reference to is that Cormac had told her that her star would glow in the presence of her, like, chosen champions, basically, right? So the star is glowing around these Daglin hounds. And then also they are responding to her emotions, right? Like they are feeling the same emotions that she's feeling. It's like two levels of things going on here, right? Like they are respecting her authority, but they also seem to somehow be linked up to her emotions, which kind of fits with the word hound things, but kind of is also something we've never seen before, which I think is interesting. I don't really know where that came from, you know? Bryce calls them cousins of the Sobek, but the Sobeks live in the water. Like the Ocean Queen has pet Sobeks, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the moral of this episode is they're all Asteri creatures at the end of the day. Except maybe the Suriel, we're not sure on.
Except for the Hewn City is giving hell.
Yeah, but Hewn City is giving hell. The Middengard Wyrm definitely tied to the Asteri, but maybe their home planet.
And Kier wields shadows.
We will talk about the Hewn City. We will talk about the Hewn City. Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. And so did the Valg, and these creatures look like Valg creatures, but it's fine. It's fine. All right. Pre-cog Corner. Abby, what is your pre-cog theory?
All right, it's just a little one for this week. There's a very interesting line. I just want to read you this line and see what you think of it. So this is in ACOMAF chapter 45. This has nothing to do with creatures. Just this is something I found. So this is when Rhys and Feyre are training in the woods, and Rhys has just told Feyre about his mother and his sister and Tamlin killing them, and Feyre's feeling very angry. Okay. And the quote is, "Perhaps it was the cold, perhaps it was his story, but hoarfrost cracked in my veins and the wild song of a winter wind howled in my heart. I felt it then, how easy it would be to jump between them, join them together, my powers. Each one of my animals halted midair and froze into perfectly carved bits of ice. One by one, they dropped to the earth and shattered. They were one. They had come from the same dark origin, the same eternal well of power. Once long ago, before language was invented and the world was new." So what she's saying there is all of her powers were once one and had the same dark origin, right? Mm-hmm. We have two characters with raw magic in this entire universe, and that's Dorian and Elena. Mm-hmm. Kind of wild that Elena has raw magic when we know that she is the daughter of a fire goddess, right? My question is, what happened so that the powers
splintered?
Yes. Like what has happened here? What is the dark origin? We've talked about the Dark Maker before, right? Like that is usually used with the Valg. And Dorian obviously has obvious Valg connections, but like what is the origin of magic in this universe? Why was it all one? Why has it split into these factions on Prythian?
So Dorian is the child of a Valg infested human and a human, right? Mm-hmm. And then Elena is the child of Mala, Firebringer, and Brannon.
And Dorian is descended from Elena as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Brannon, his bit is flames. Yeah.
Yeah. I think. I don't actually 100% know.
So that's what I was going to ask is I saw this wild theory and I don't remember who posted it. And so I'm sorry. And I'm just going to say that I'm sorry that I don't remember who posted it. And if it was you, please comment. Like, because I'm not claiming credit for this. But I saw a wild theory that was basically, and this isn't answering the question about the splintering, but in ACOWAR, we have the Prythian version of the murder twins, right? Branna and
Dagna.
Dagda?
Incest twins.
Branna and Dagda?
I think it's Dagna.
Whatever. It sounds like Brannon and Daglin. Like it sounds the same.
Maybe it's Branna and Dagnan. Hold on.
I think it's Branna and Dagden. I think that's what it is. I think it's Branna and
Yeah.
Dagden.
Branna and Dagden.
And so this person's question is, why the fuck do we have two like Valgi people on Prythian called Branna and Dagden? That sounds exactly like Brannon and Daglin. And are we supposed to be like, what's going on with Brannon?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we are supposed to be like, what's going on with Brandon, no matter what.
And yeah, like, and is all of this power stemming from like Valg roots or like hell-based roots? As far as what happened to it,
I mean, it's very clear that the Asteri and the gods, right, if they're not the same, if they are the same, have single track powers, right? Mala is fire. Deanna is silver flames. Vesperus is the evening star.
Could this possibly have had anything to do with the corruption of, like, Thea and Theon aftermath happened, right? Like, Selene was cleaning up a whole mess, and during that time, we split into courts.
Yeah.
At that point, I think there was already regional magic by then.
Yeah, because the Firebringers in the south.
Yeah.
The Firebringers are in the south.
So I don't know when this
wielders,
split, but the trove already existed, and the harp can separate magic. So could there have been a decision to avoid a concentration of too much power? Could we have decided to separate the powers using the harp?
Yeah.
But if there were already regional powers when that corruption occurred, I don't think that that's really possible. Unless Theon made the decision to separate the powers, then it's possible.
I don't think we've seen any. I could be wrong. We're going to do our Crescent City soon. I don't think we've seen any of Theon's powers.
No.
I don't think we know.
We have no idea.
We have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Unanswered question, but good questions, I think. All right. Let's talk about the worm. I'm so excited.
Yeah, the worm. So I don't know whether this is it, but I think we might have been shown where the worm crossed over between Midgard and Prythian. And I think we also might have been shown where the connections are in these fucking tunnels. And it's inspired by your archway theory.
Hey.
Yay. Okay. So this is in House of Flame and Shadow, Chapter 12. Context for everybody. Obviously, you've been here for this full episode, so you know that the Middengard Wyrm is in Prythian. It's obviously named after Midgard. Did it come from Midgard? Where is it actually from? We don't know. Abby, you had a theory that archways denoted that there had been world walking somewhere at some point, that there had been like a portal opened by the horn.
The horn and the harp.
The horn and the harp.
When the horn and the harp are used together, a physical archway manifests that is permanent.
Yeah.
It's the theory. Yeah.
Yeah. So when Bryce and Nesta and Azriel are walking through the tunnels underneath the prison and the Hewn City, like when they're going through that whole network, there's all of these carvings in the walls, right? And Bryce is like an art historian, and so she's actually like taking an interest in them, but there's a lot of other shit going on, so we're not really paying attention to like what's on these carvings. And I want to be, but I wasn't really either. And in these passages, Bryce is looking at the walls and she says, these reliefs tell a narrative too, you know. Nesta peered up at the images. The three dancing fae in the foreground, the stars overhead, the mountain island with the castle atop its highest peak. And again, always the reminder of that suffering underworld beneath it. Memento mori, et innovalin ego. What sort of narrative? Bryce shrugged. If I had a few weeks, I could walk the whole length and analyze it. But you don't know our history, Nesta said. It'd have no context for you. I don't need context. Art has a universal language. So what struck me in that scene was that as she's looking at these carvings, it's not clear, right? Like they seem to be the story of Prythian. They could also be referring to Avalon, but it seems to be the story of Prythian. And Bryce, in italics, says, memento mori et in Avalon ego. So she's saying, remember you must die, and in Avalon, there I am also, in these tunnels. And then later in the passage, like in the passages that she's walking through, the passage says, the river was still a thunderous roar when the carvings changed. Normally, they were full of life and action and movement. But this one was simple, clearly meant to be the sole focus, something of great importance to whoever had carved it. An archway had been etched, stars glimmering around it, and in that archway stood a male figure, the image created with impressive depth. His hand was upraised in greeting, and Bryce might have looked closer had the Middengard Wyrm not exploded from the river behind them. So I think this could have at one point been an indication that these tunnels could have at one point linked to Hell. And I think that the tunnels in Avalon also linked to, I mean, we know that the tunnels in Avalon also linked to Hell.
Yeah.
And I think the worm had to carve both of them.
I think the worm absolutely had to carve. So there is an archway in the tunnel. There's an archway with a rising sun above it, if I'm remembering correctly, in the tunnels underneath the prison.
Yeah.
So, and we know like there's more than one archway because there's an archway in the harp room too. And we know that I believe there's an archway in the tunnels underneath in the Cave of Princes too. So like it all adds up and archways can kind of point wherever you want them to, right? Like Bryce changes where the Northern Rift is pointing to.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it matters if it's pointing to Hell or pointing to Midgard or what.
Hell was basically like the pass through for this worm, which would also kind of explain the fact that if Hell and Asteria have the same homeworld, it's not really of Midgard either.
I think it is of Midgard because of the mythology.
I don't think either of us think it's of Midgard. Yeah. But that's like how it carved both the tunnels in Avalon and the tunnels in Prythian, and how those tunnels look the same is because the worm came from Hell, and that was the linking point.
I agree. Yes, I agree. I think the worm is from a third place. I think there was, or maybe still is, a worm on Midgard. And I think there was, or still, obviously there still are worms on Prythian. The question is though, how did it get its name? Right? Like, why is its name so similar to Midgard if we're told the only Fae that ever came back were Selene and Bryce, and we have no record of Selene ever like coming into contact with a worm, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I still think that the worm came through Hell. The worm came through the bottom of the library from Hell.
Well, yeah, I mean, so we know there's all these shortcuts in Prythian, right?
Yeah.
So like the worm is using those. It's not. So we think basically the worm can use whatever interdimensional ley lines there are too, which would actually make a ton of sense if it's from the Asteri home planet. That it has whatever world walking abilities the Asteri also kind of have.
Well, also, like if these are just thin places with like some sort of archway, maybe it does have world walking abilities, or maybe it is just let through. Yeah. But it does seem like it came up, right? Because the library is like this, isn't it? It's like a funnel.
Yeah.
And the bottom of the library is what pulses like Hell.
Yeah. I see it.
I don't know. The theory is the worm came through Hell to Avalon. Like Hell is the link between Avalon and the
Midgard.
Tunnels under the Hewn City and the prison.
Yeah.
And the Hewn City is the link to Hell. Hewn City and the library, which are linked by these like space traveling tunnels.
And we will do a places episode and get into the Hewn City. Don't you worry.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we are on social media. You can find us on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Dragons in the Details Pod. We have a Discord. If you are at this point in the episode and you are interested in rereading the Maasverse in publication order, we have a book club on the Discord that is doing that. I don't know what book they're on right now. I don't know if you know what book they're on right now, but it is the Lettuce Baby Book Club channel in the Discord. And our Discord server is called Dragons in the Details. It's linked in the show notes. It's a fun time. It's a wild time. We have a website, dragonsinthedetails.com. There's a contact form on there if you want to get in touch with us. You can also send us an email, dragonsinthedetailspod@gmail.com. And as always, we are a small podcast, but we are trying to grow. We're a little bit less small now, but we are still trying to grow, very much so.
Mid-size podcast. Yeah.
The more that you guys can subscribe through whatever channel that you listen to, the more we can do. We'd really super appreciate it if you could leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. And we love you, and that's all we got for today.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.